All sports, all the time.
There's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
This is the Spoken Podcast.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
I'm your host, Lance Twidwell.
Man, that kid, he can ball, man. He can ball.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Patrick freaking Mahomes, baby!
Let's talk some sports, because that's what we're here to do.
You are tuned in to The Spoken.
This is the Spoken Podcast. I am your host, Lance Twidwell, here inside the Starcade Media Studios with my guys, Trevor Twidwell.
What's good?
And Eddie Ortiz.
Yo.
Episode 215 in full swing, full motion. We're so happy to be here with you and for you to be here with us. Whether you are live streaming, whether you are podcasting, or whether you are YouTubing, we want to thank you so much for taking time to be with us in this time as we have a jam-packed show for you guys today. We have a lot to get to because, man, today alone, as we're actually doing this live stream, we were actually talking about right before we started before we hit live, we have, across the sports landscape today, you have NBA playoffs. You have the UFC card. I believe it's 288. We can talk a little bit about that today as well. We have boxing. Canelo's fighting tonight. One of the greatest boxers of all time. Eddie definitely agrees. And, I think WWE, you said, has a pay-per-view. It's so much going on. So I think this is the perfect day for you to strap in and join your fellows over here at the Spoken Podcast because we're going to dabble and touch on a little bit of all of it. We're also very excited because, as you guys know, each and every week we talk a lot of Chiefs football because there's a lot of relevant topics to discuss, which is why I'm very happy and very honored and very privileged to say that we have our guy from the Kingdom Cast, Mr. DMAC Wakefield, will be joining us today. This is one of the more knowledgeable Chiefs fans I know out there. Very much respect his opinion on all things Chiefs, all things NFL. I've done a lot of spaces with him and my guy Mark Gunnels over the last several months. And DMAC's always been one of my favorite opinionists out there when it comes to the building of the Chiefs, all these things. So we're going to talk about the draft with him. We're going to be talking about the Donovan Smith signing, what that means for the Chiefs offensive line. We're going to talk about Jerick McKinnon. We're going to talk about a lot of things, guys. So I'm really excited about that. I hope you guys are ready for it. But let's start right here, right now. And again, thank you guys so much for being with us. If you've not already done it, go ahead and go to our YouTube channel at the Spoken Podcast. Hit subscribe, hit the notification button, and also, more importantly, guys, hit the comment section and start letting us know what you guys are thinking about what we're discussing on the show or something you guys want to discuss. We'll do our best to bring it up on the show because we are all about community here. We want to hear from you guys. We want to know what you guys are talking about, what you guys are wanting to talk for us to talk about, and we can go from there. But I want to start here. So the NFL draft is done. We had this whole last week/weekend to really, chew on it. First and foremost, as we talked about on the show, I talked about with Marcus Dash on the Chief Concern podcast. Kansas City knocked it out of the park. W to our city here in Kansas City for what happened during the draft. Not so much like I'm saying when it comes to who was drafted where and all those things. Obviously, we're going to talk about that, but the city killed it, man. There was over 320,000 Kansas Cityans that showed up. Not just Kansas Cityans, people from across the country, but a lot of the city showed up and showed out with their red jerseys, Chiefs jerseys. A lot of fans were out there, a lot of support. I know this sounds biased, but guys, I honestly think this was the best look aesthetically of the draft I've ever seen.
The green room, everything was incredible.
The way they used Union Station, the guys walking through the Union Station, they were touring it basically and showing it all off, showing
you had
the city.
the guys opening the door for them, the
and
chauffeurs.
Every team that selected, when they were selecting, their colors were shown across the crowd and those lights, little LED lights they had. It was fantastic. I can't praise it enough for what they did, man. I hope the draft comes back here within the next decade or so because I think we absolutely crushed here in Kansas City. I wanted to say that off the top. But when it comes to the draft, we're going to talk about the Chiefs because other teams, we can discuss them at another time as far as what they did. I think a lot of other teams had really good draft selections. But I did a show this last week with our guy Jason Dunn, former Chief and Chief Concerns host. And he was asking us a series of questions at the show that we did at Artego's Pizza over in Westport. I highly recommend you guys go see my guy Joe Perez. Great pizza, great time, amazing guys, man. We're definitely going to go back up there. He actually wants us to host a show out there. We're definitely going to entertain that. So Jason was asking a series of questions in regards to what we thought about this draft. And for me, and my guy Arrowhead Tom, Chuck was there from Kingdom Cast, CJ was there from the Aftermath, and we all had pretty much a consensus agreement of what we saw in this draft from the Chiefs. This class as a whole for the NFL, it was a very top-heavy class. Mm-hmm. There were guys, I think there was only about 14 players in total that had first-round grades. That's very low. Usually it's around like 25 to 35 of guys that have first-round grades. This was a very, I have to say, a mediocre draft class. Now, there's always going to be those guys that come out of nowhere, out of the woodwork, that are like a fourth-round pick that ends up being a baller and a Hall of Fame player. Those guys are always going to be there. We see that almost every single draft class. But this was one of those draft classes where teams are going to have to start taking some risks a little bit earlier than they normally would like to. Chiefs sitting at 31, obviously trying to be aggressive with where they wanted to go in the later stages of the first round. We heard that they were trying to move to 23 with the Vikings, with 26 with the Cowboys, because they wanted to get ahead of the Bills. They wanted to get ahead of the Bengals, as I was predicting. They were going to try to move up, get the best pass rusher available, maybe even a wide receiver. There were rumors of that. I don't know how true that was, but I do know the Chiefs were trying to be active and they were trying to be aggressive in the first round. It just did not work out because none of these teams were trying to facilitate a trade for the Chiefs and help the team that's been dominating the league for the last 5+ years. But I think given that, the Chiefs did as good as they possibly could. We've already talked about FAU, the Felix and a DK Uzoma pick. I'm not going to go one by one as far as what the picks were. But what I will say is this. I love the fact that even though the Chiefs had needs, and this was a draft that didn't have some of those areas of need for the Chiefs just sitting there early in the draft, the Chiefs were able to be aggressive with who they wanted to go and get. They didn't sit back and say, all right, let's see who's out there, whatever gets to us. They went and they traded up multiple times, as I had predicted, maybe not in the same rounds, but they did trade up and get guys they knew they wanted, not guys that were just left over. They traded up to go and get Rashee Rice. They traded up and get Wanya Morris. They traded up and got the Shamari Connor. They went and got him as well. These are aggressive moves because the Chiefs are able to do it. They're hosting the draft. They just won their second Super Bowl in 4 years, and they had 10 picks. They had double-digit picks for the second consecutive year. They can be aggressive, and they can afford to be aggressive. We know this team is always going to be as great as their draft classes are. We know that you have to build young, cheap talent around Patrick Mahomes if you want to sustain Super Bowl success. That's how it has to go. And so I told JD, I told the guys at the table, I said, I think that this went as good as the Chiefs could have went for multiple reasons. One, the Chiefs went the way we all wanted it to go. Defense heavy.
Yeah.
They
Five of the 7 picks.
5 of the 7 picks. They had 10 total picks, but they were so aggressive they only ended up having 7, which I think we all saw, like 7, 8 picks at most. 5 of those 7 picks were defensive players. That now makes 18 of the last 29 draft picks the Chiefs have taken have been defensive players.
DBs and defensive line.
And every single one of them are still on the roster. Think about how insane that is to say.
Yeah.
And so 62, 63-ish% of your last since 2020 of your draft picks are still on the roster and they're defensive players. That's how you sustain success. Is there a chance that a BJ Thompson doesn't work out? Are there chances that Shamari Connor doesn't work out, or Wanya Morris, or even FAU? Yes. There is that strong possibility all these guys could very well be busts. But am I going to sit here and look at the previous history of the last 2 to 3 drafts that Brett Veach had before this class and saw some of the guys he got in the 7th round, 6th round, 4th round, and not assume that there's going to be at least 1 or 2 of these guys that end up becoming a star player? Because that's exactly what's happened over these last 3 drafts, where you had a L'Jarius Sneed, you got an Isaiah Pacheco, you went and got Jalen Watson and Joshua Williams, guys that are contributing at high levels and helping this team not only get to the Super Bowl, but win the Super Bowl. So this class, to me, if I'm looking at a letter grade, I'm going to say it's a solid B. I'm not going to sit here and be a fan that's like, oh, it's A+, they just killed it. There is a strong chance that this isn't going to be the strongest draft class the Chiefs have. Yeah. Because of the fact that also the bar was set so damn high in 2022 that it's going to be really tough to replicate that, especially the very next year. But if there is a GM outside of Howie Roseman that can do it, it is Brett Veach. So I look at these draft picks, I segment them, I say, FAU, I'm expecting him to be a 2024 contributor. That's when he's going to be, when he's really starting to roll. I think he'll obviously get snaps in 2023, but he's going to have a development process. And that's okay because the Chiefs have guys in place that can help him kind of groom into that situation. Then you said Rashee Rice. I don't have a lot of expectations for him this year, guys. I don't know how you guys feel about it. You guys can tell me. I think he's going to be a 2024 player as well. I think that's when he's going to really turn into the guy if he ends up being the guy ever. And then you have Wanya Morris. I definitely think he's going to get a legit shot to start at right tackle. I still think as it stands right now in early May, I think it's going to be Lucas Niang's job to lose. Possibly, we'll actually talk to our guy DMAC Wakefield about what this Donovan Smith thing's actually going to entail, what's it going to actually mean. I got my theories on that. We'll talk about that in about 20 minutes. And then you have Chamari Connor. This is a guy, he's not my favorite player of this draft class, but what I will say is this is a guy that could legitimately replace L'Jarius Sneed if the Chiefs don't look at L'Jarius Sneed, like we talked about last week, as a long-term answer. If they don't see L'Jarius Sneed as a long-term answer, I don't think they're afraid to turn the keys over to Chamari Connor because of the fact, as I predicted, it went kind of strange how it all worked. Mm-hmm. I had the Chiefs taking a DB at 134 for that particular reason. Mm-hmm. The Chiefs ironically traded the 134th pick, moved up to 119 to get Chamari Connor. Yep. So and I don't sound crazy. I don't feel crazy about this because my guy Arrowhead Tom said the same thing. JD said the same thing. CJ from Aftermath said the same thing. And I know you guys have echoed these sentiments.
A lot of the experts love that pick.
Daniel Jeremiah, one of the most respected draft experts out there, said his favorite pick of day 3 was Chamari Connor.
Yeah.
That I don't take that shit lightly. That's why I got so amped about Sky Moore. Is that everybody was like, man, that second-round pick the Chiefs got of Sky Moore was a steal. Exactly. Yeah. That's why I got so amped up about it. And I think that's still going to be something that's valid. Yeah, right. And then you had B.J. Thompson. Again, this kid's a project. 24 years old. He's a grown man. Insanely skilled, but also very underweight. He's around 235, 240 right now. He needs to gain about 20 pounds. At least. Yes, at least. He's going to bulk up. He's already been trying. So according to reports for the last couple of months, he's been bulking up. So he's probably at 240 or 245 right now. He needs to gain about 15 more pounds outside of that. He's going to be a guy that you'll see later in 2023 start to really play his role. I think, like I told you guys last week, I'll say it again. I wouldn't be shocked at all if in week 14, some random game the Chiefs play, B.J. Thompson gets 2 sacks. You know, he plays like, what the hell?
He's a freak
Where did he
athlete,
come
bro.
from? Like, oh, man, he hasn't done anything all season. He's got 2 sacks.
Yep.
You're going to start seeing that coming of age. Also, the fact Tamba Hali has been helping the edge rushers, in particular George Karlaftis this last year. I think he's going to get more involved as well. Joe Colin being the defensive line expert, Spags in his year 5 as the Chiefs DC. I think you're going to see these guys really start to develop quicker than we anticipate. George Karlaftis, especially this year too. But Keandre Coburn is my favorite pick of this draft. I'm going to say that right here, right now. We didn't get to talk about this on the show yesterday, guys, but what I will say about this kid is, I mean, literally everybody's talking about this guy being the next Vince Wilfork. Like, literally, people are calling him Vince Wilfork. That's insane to say, man. That's high praise to be a potential Hall of Fame player. He muddies run lanes. He makes the running backs have to adjust and reconfigure where they're running. He's an incredibly nimble, big man. He's 6'3", 320 pounds.
Yeah.
Absolute wall. So I think this kid is as ready, as prepared, and I think he's going to be the player of this draft class that gets the most snaps and plays the biggest role for the Chiefs because of the fact that's an area of absolute need the Chiefs are not deep in. Defensive tackle. Outside of Chris Jones, who swings it over to D end a lot, you have Derek Nottie, like a one-year guy.
Well, we lost
Turk
Colin
Wharton.
Saunders.
Yeah, Turk Wharton's coming off of an ACL injury. Like, those are rotational guys. I think
I'm excited to see Turk back, though.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a good player.
Love that
I like Turk, and I like Derek Nottie overall.
Oh, yeah.
I would have rather had Colin Saunders personally. He's good, though.
Yeah, Derek Nottie is good at the run, which is what the Chiefs really struggle a lot with, and I think having Derek Nottie in that DT, I think that's a good.
He's consistent.
Absolutely.
He hits the gaps perfectly. Yeah, he's a great guy.
And just like I said, guys, over the last 3-4 drafts, there's always that one steal that Brett Veach gets, at least, right? You know, you had L'Jarius Sneed in 2020. 2021, you had Trey Smith in 6th round. You know, you got Isaiah Pacheco in the 7th round, Jalen Watson. Like, those are steals.
Isaiah Pacheco.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's why I said, did I say Isaiah Pacheco?
Oh, you probably did.
Isaiah Pacheco in the 7th round, like, he was like the 240th overall pick. Like, to get guys like that, like, would it honestly shock you that at the 194th pick, the Chiefs got an all-pro Keandre Coburn? Like, it wouldn't shock me at all, man, because he's done it over and over again. So I think he's the guy I'm looking out for the most. And then they finished off with Nick Jones. Probably going to be a high-end special teamer at best. Good cornerback, you know, in his college career. Mm-hmm. I don't have high anticipation that he's going to probably make the roster initially. I know that the Chiefs like Najee Johnson a lot. That's the guy that our guys at Chief Concerns are big on. They've had him on the show. I think he's going to get a chance in year 2 to really try to get an opportunity to play in the secondary. I think Nick Jones is probably going to be a jag at first in training camp. Just one of the guys to earn himself a roster spot. But again, 7th-round picks have been a good thing for Brett Veach, man. Who's to say that Nick Jones doesn't make the 53 initially, doesn't become a good gunner on special teams? Who's to say, man? Who knows? I'm keeping my mind open. I'm very positive about this draft class. There wasn't a single draft pick I didn't like. Some I liked more than others. Like I said, Rashee Rice at the 2nd round. I wasn't big on wide receivers in this one. I know the Chiefs really liked the kid, so I'm good with it. I'm not great with it. There's other picks I liked better. But overall, solid B draft class for Brett Veach. Cannot wait to see what this looks like on the field come 2023. Trevor, your thoughts?
Man, yeah. This draft went basically as good as it could for me. Like you said, 5 of our 7 picks were defense. We've said it ad nauseum on this show. Draft heavy on defense. And grab proven commodities in the league on offense via free agency or however you want to do it, or trade, however you want to accumulate proven talent offensively in this league. And I think that's a great formula for success, and it's shown in this league. We just won a championship going that way. Yeah, man. I mean, I think a lot of these guys have a lot of potential. Honestly, starting the draft off, with the defensive end is obviously how we all wanted it and how we all wanted it to go. And then the story of King Felix, him staying home, that much more motivation to succeed in his career. A kid that has had a chip on his shoulder. I love that pick so much. I love that story going into the season. I love that story going into camp. I love the Chiefs going to grabbing another weapon in Rasheed Rice.
You got Rasheed Wallace. He's a Chiefs fan. It makes sense,
The muscle memory, man. Just when I hear Rasheed, I think Rasheed Wallace. Love that guy.
Is it Rashi or Rasheed?
I think it's Rasheed.
Rasheed Rice? Is that? I was calling him Rashi Rice.
We'll find out. I mean, if he's anything like Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Mr. Rice for now.
Mr. Rice, yeah. Rice is nice.
Yeah, he's going to be the biggest Rice to ever come out of the NFL. No, I'm just kidding.
I like that.
Just kidding.
I like that.
No offense.
I think Jerry Rice was like a 5th-round pick, just saying. I think a 4th or 5th-round pick.
We'll get to Rasheed Rice here later on the show. I think I got some hot takes about this kid.
There we go.
But yeah, man, I think this draft went as good as it possibly could. I think this is a vintage Veach draft. He moved up to get the guys he wanted. He has, Brett Veach's draft board and how he, qualifies guys and how he values guys in certain positions for certain qualities. I have no reason to doubt.
Right.
Getting another offensive tackle, with Wanya Morris, that's a guy I think he's obviously a massive guy, very good athlete, huge wingspan, a guy that played along Trey Smith. I love that chemistry built in there. I love a guy who's already familiar with one of the characters, one of the main characters on our offensive line. He's going to have that immediate rapport with one of our best offensive linemen. Yeah, that friendship's built in, so he's coming onto a team with a familiar face. I love that.
Right.
I think that's a bigger thing than people realize. Him coming into camp for sure. And then obviously Chamari Connor is probably getting the most steam of all the picks, I think, for the Chiefs, as far as all the experts and what they love.
Definitely.
We could talk about King Felix and the story behind that, but I think the most steam coming off what we would call the steal of the draft, I think Chamari has been that guy as far as around the league and how they've analyzed the Chiefs draft. And the Chiefs have been getting great grades. Take that for whatever you want. I don't really give a shit about draft grades. You can give us an F for all I care. You know what I mean? I don't really care about that. These guys got to go prove themselves in the league regardless. You know what I mean? I don't care about the name on the jersey until, they prove it on the field.
Right.
And I think Chamari is one of those guys, dude. I think I can see Chamari being a lifelong Chief. I can see him being one of those guys. I mean, L'Jarius Sneed obviously is the direct comparison because their skill sets are eerily similar. I think he obviously looks to be that replacement for L'Jarius Sneed. But he could become like a lure player, like an Eric Berry, a guy that will never die, is a legend that will never die in Chiefs Kingdom. Everyone loved Eric Berry. The way it ended was strange, but that guy will forever live on. He's one of the few jerseys I own is an Eric Berry jersey. So
he's got a recognizable name too, his unique Chamari Carter.
Yeah,
like it's just a standout kind of name.
It's unique.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have high hopes for that kid, and just watching his tape, bro. If anybody out there hasn't watched this tape, go watch this tape. It's very fun. It is very Eric Berry-esque.
Yeah.
The dude lays the wood. The dude was nailing running backs in the backfield, getting after quarterbacks, which is very similar to Eric Berry and L'Jarius Sneed's style of a DB, a hybrid DB who can play coverage but also can blitz the shit out of quarterbacks.
I don't know if you mentioned it, and you probably did, but he led his team in sacks in 2018. That's the craziest thing, as a safety to be able to do that.
Yeah, the safety and corner blitzes they had in those different packages, and that's a perfect Spags guy.
I mean, think I have L'Jarius Sneed and him on the field at the same time, sprinkling these jack of all trades
on both sides.
players.
Yeah, you never know which one's coming at you. That's
and
a
real quick,
deadly package.
I don't want to take away from you real quick, Trevor, but that was something else that you just reminded me that the pressure that this team now is under is a good pressure. Think about it. On the defensive side, there's only one guy that's making real money. I know that Justin Reed's contract's kind of there. He's going to make some money next year if he's still on the team. But Chris Jones is like the one guy on this roster on the defensive side that's making actual big money.
Yeah.
And you have guys like Willie Gay, L'Jarius Sneed, Drew Tranquil, all coming up on contract. Mike Edwards coming up on contract years this next year. They're all trying to showcase themselves, right? Nick Bolton's going to try to fight for a contract after this next season for year 3 in his contract because he's only has 4 years on his contract as a second-round pick. You know, like these guys have to prove themselves this season because they also see guys like Chamari Connor sitting there waiting for their opportunity to become the full-time starter.
Yeah.
So they're like, you know what? F this, dude. I'm L'Jarius Sneed. I want to stay in Kansas City, and I want to get paid here.
Yeah.
I'm going to outplay this kid that's coming in here basically to take my job. Like, think about the motivating factors of that. Like, how much better that makes the defense when everybody's alert, attentive, wanting to prove that they're the guy that this defense can rely on.
I want to say I know your sneaky pick, arguably your favorite pick of the draft and your biggest steal of the draft with Keandre Coburn, which I love that pick as well. That's just an incredible depth piece to add coming from Texas, a great program, obviously. I love that pick as well. But I think the sneakiest pick of this draft is B.J. Thompson.
Okay,
6'6", 240 pounds, a multiple sport athlete. Guy played basketball. Go watch his basketball highlights, and you can dunk the ball like no other. Extremely quick off the edge for as tall as he is. It is very eerily similar to Carlos Dunlap, guy that was a similar size guy, but a much higher. Not coming out of a big school either. Carlos Dunlap, fought for everything he got in this league, everything he got coming out of college. Similar to this kid, I liked it. I think this is the sneakiest pick for me to have the most upside. Coming off the edge, a guy that's quick, tall, can bat balls, can get after the quarterback, strong as shit. Defensive end / outside linebacker, kind of a hybrid kind of guy. You can move around. I love that with the Amenahu as well, a similar guy. You know what I mean? So we have two massively tall, big wings, long wingspan kind of guys that are quick, that can get after the quarterback or create pressure up the middle or on the edge. I love having him come and learn under Amenahu. I think that's a perfect pairing with those two guys, similar players, similar to obviously Carlos Dunlap, guys like that, and those guys have had great careers.
Right.
Carlos Dunlap in his era was one of the most consistent at his position. Always having 8 to 9 sacks every year, or 10 sacks almost every year. Consistent, always available, very rarely ever banged up. This guy's a freak athlete, man. I think this is the sneakiest pick of the draft. I think this is a guy that has the most upside as far as where he was taken.
And he was kicked off of his first football team. Didn't know if he was ever going to play football again.
Yeah.
And got himself back up and made himself
I
a
love
worthy
stories
player
like
again.
that.
Yeah.
I love redemption stories. That's a massive chip on their shoulder.
That's that MJ story.
It's
He
just-
was cut from the JV
That's an
team?
all-American.
His high school team, yeah.
That's
his
an
high school team.
all-American story. That's a movie. You know what I mean? I love stories like that, and I think that, and then I think that is just my favorite as far as like a sneaky, like, whoa, we didn't think he'd become that.
Yeah, I hope that's the case.
I think that's what he is in this draft, and I could be very wrong, but I think over the next couple of seasons we'll see him. Maybe it starts in camp. Maybe he'll flash a little bit in camp on the defensive side. That's my guy to look for in camp on the defensive side. But I love the way we capped off the draft with Nick Jones, just another DB.
It never hurts. It never
Absolute
hurts.
depth because we brought in other guys.
And he's another 6-foot corner too.
Right,
That's
man.
what I love. Another 6-foot corner.
we brought
on
in
this team.
we brought in Mike Edwards. A veteran who might just be a 1-year rental. Yeah. But then we have another depth guy that could just be a special teamer. Who knows? He could just fall apart, and we can never hear of Nick Jones again. But he also could be one of those another sneaky Veach, which I'm saying this is a vintage Veach draft. Drafting high talent guys. He's out of Ball State, not a big school. But man, that doesn't really matter anymore. The big school names doesn't always matter anymore.
No,
That's
it
starting to
doesn't.
trend away. You know what I mean?
Well, especially with more guys going to HBCUs and
Let's say
Mac.
Eagles.
Hey, Old Dominion had like 6 players drafted in this.
Right, but look at
Old Dominion.
But again, look at Veach's style and how he does in the draft. The school doesn't matter where he's taking these guys. You know what I mean? Or guys that were doubted, like Trey Smith, guys that were would he even be able to play the game? He's been playing at an extremely high level, elite at times at his position in the NFL. So Veach getting guys out of Rutgers, Veach getting guys out of Toledo, guys like the starting
Alabama
players.
State.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Yeah,
right,
man.
right.
Yeah, so that I don't care about that stuff. I don't care about the name on the jersey. I don't care about the school name on the jersey. All I care about is what these guys can do and how they can perform. And if they're the best for the job, they win the job. And I think there's a good amount of guys in this draft. I think this was an extremely solid draft. And the Chiefs all around the NFL have been getting nothing but great grades, and they get a great grade from me as well. They hit every position I wanted in the draft. I know you wanted a tight end, and that would have been cool. I wouldn't have mind that either. But I wasn't that big on a tight end this year. I think next year is a good time to go in. And there's always a new flood of tight end talent coming in every season. They continue to breed them more and more in college. But I love the defensive heavy 5 out of 7 picks going to DBs and defensive linemen, outside linebackers. I love it, man. I love stockpiling that kind of talent and letting these guys go out there and compete in camp. So A+ for me in this draft, man.
A plus.
You got A plus.
I
Okay.
love this
Okay.
draft, dude. Yeah.
I give them a solid B plus. I think the Chiefs did what they needed to do. They drafted what they needed.
Sure.
I like how they didn't draft out of pure desperation, kind of like a couple years back where they drafted out of pure desperation. So I like that they took what was needed in the team and how they focus on that side of the field a lot more this year. I know you said that since 2020 they've drafted 18 out of 29 defensive players. And I think that's just exactly what we need. If we want to be that dynasty, we have to build that defense up. You have to, obviously, with Patrick Mahomes' contract, with obviously you're starting to have tackles that are expensive. You're gonna have Creed Humphrey's contract, so you have to kind of focus the draft on the defensive side because you won't be able to pay a lot of those guys because all your money is gonna be protecting Patrick Mahomes or helping them with weapons or whatnot. So I like how the Chiefs are doing that and they're making their focus into the defensive side, building it up, adding depth, those cheap contracts. So I think this draft class was exactly what we needed. The only pick I question, but I could kind of be like, I don't know if I would have picked him that high. Is our second round pick in the Rashee Rice. I just don't know if that was what we could have taken there. I think he could have still been there later on in that draft in that round. I don't think we had a trade up. I think he would have still be there whenever we're gonna pick was the 63rd, I think.
Yeah.
So I think he would have still sit there and but I mean I don't question that Brett Veach knows that's why I'm not a GM. Brett Veach knows what he's doing. And the pick I loved the most was FAU. I mean this guy in K-State just did his thing. That team was insane this past year. That team has been building up for the past few years, and then the last year they finally kind of took off a little bit.
It was a big part of it.
Yeah, we started to see that K-State, because K-State has a decent football program, but in the past years they had been struggling, and FAU was a big part of revamping that defensive side, that K-State team, and they did big things last year. So I think FAU was a big piece in this draft. I think you could say probably a steal in the first round. I'm sure a lot of people would have wanted him. But what he can do in there, especially with Chris Jones in the middle, obviously you can have him on the edge opposite to Karlaftis. He has this. He has the strength that Karlaftis kind of lacks a little bit, but Karlaftis has the speed. So connecting those two is going to be insane because now you're going to have to okay, we can't just double Chris Jones because we have those two guys coming at us. Right. And they're young, they're hungry, they're going to play hard. So and then obviously you got Amenihu coming in, and then you got Tranquil also coming in as a linebacker. So it's going to be fantastic to see those guys. Leo Chenal in there.
Yeah.
Dude,
it's loaded,
this,
man.
This is promising, and I love this.
Willie
pick.
Gay and his this is his
contract year. So, I mean, he better stay healthy because there's that linebacker. What round did we draft him?
BJ Thompson. Yeah, was that fourth round? That was a fourth round pick. Yeah.
So he's also in line, so if you Willie Gay can't go down this season. Because I think B.J. Thompson can very well come in here.
To that point, we saw some highlights of B.J. Thompson blocking up passes, things of that nature, and pass protection. So yeah, that's another great.
And that's very important, especially because obviously Nick Bolton's not a very good pass.
No, that's why Drew Tranquil's here as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very interesting to see how this all works out. But I'm happy with the FAU pick. It's fantastic. I can't wait to see him out on the field. I think he could be a day one contributor for sure. Expect some sacks out of him, so it's gonna be very, very fun to see.
And you have to remember, when we talk about knocking it out of the park, getting all these star players, like people try to shit on Veach about that, about how he didn't get the star players like John Dorsey did. The thing about it, we have to remember, guys, is that John Dorsey was also selecting a lot higher or a lot lower in the draft.
His teams weren't winning championships.
The Chiefs were winning like 10, 11 games, which is great and everything, but they weren't. Yeah, they weren't winning 12 to 14 every year like they are now. That's a significant
They weren't hosting
difference.
the AFC Championship every
They
year.
were finishing 4th in the division, 3rd in the division.
Yeah, the Chiefs weren't winning the
they were
AFC
drafting
West.
pretty
They
high.
weren't winning the AFC Championship. They weren't doing these things. So Brett Veach has already a tougher task as it is. Yeah. Second of all, I do think Brett Veach would sign up for that, though, because he knows he's got the chops to get guys late in the draft, and he also knows that, hey, if we're drafting late, that means we're succeeding.
He's also not afraid to let guys go when he doesn't want to overpay for somebody.
Exactly. And that's the point I'm
That
trying to
takes
make.
balls.
The versatility this defense now has with all these young freak athletes that they can just put all over the field is only going to add incentive for them to say, look, Chiefs fans, you got to trust us. Like, we all have our opinions here. That's the whole reason why we're here, to talk about what we think about these picks, what we think about what Brett Veach is doing. I'm not sitting here saying I know better. What I'm saying is I like certain things better than other things that they do as a team, as a collective, and how to build this roster. Maybe I see it a little bit differently. But the cool thing is that I can give Brett Veach all autonomy and all respect and the benefit of the doubt, and knowing that if he was to, let's say before this draft, he would have traded Willie Gay. Or he'd have traded L'Jarius Sneed. As a fan, yeah, I'm not stoked about that because I love those guys. I think they help the Chiefs. Obviously, they helped win a Super Bowl. The point, though, is that I would at the same time feel the confidence of, okay, this is Brett Veach doing this. That means he's got a plan here, and he can find a guy that can replace those guys adequately and immediately. Because what we just saw last year, if him trading Tyreek Hill and the Chiefs having the season they just had and winning the Super Bowl the way they did and having 87, or it was 82 or 87, explosive plays, which was more than the year previous with Tyreek Hill, if that doesn't give you all the confidence in the world that Brett Veach can replace literally anyone outside of Patrick Mahomes, I don't know what to tell you. That's why I was in the tight end market on this draft, because I'm like, look, you can't replace Travis Kelce in theory, but who thought you could replace Tony Gonzalez? Like, think about that. Like, the Chiefs managed to upgrade.
Well, we didn't for a long time.
You know what I'm saying, though? Like, once they went and got a tight end, like, they took the position seriously, you went and got a guy that's even better. Like, that's what's wild to me, is that you have
a better quarterback.
Well, that's obviously true. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's
Just
not even a slight at Tony. That's not even a slight at Tony.
Not at all. That's
me
my guy.
giving praise to what John Dorsey's done, what Brett Veach has done, what Travis Kelce became. Like, all these things coincide.
And if to Tony Gonzalez's credit, he kind of helped develop the tight end position to what it is now. Because back then it wasn't about receiving touchdowns. It wasn't about receiving yards. It wasn't about that. It was more about blocking, being able to block for the run game, being able to block for your quarterback. So Tony Gonzalez kind of paved the way for the tight ends we have now to become more of a weapon, I guess you can say.
And at the same time, I don't want to hear people tell me that Tony didn't have quarterbacks. He played well over half his career with Trent Green and Matt Ryan. Yeah. So he did have quarterbacks. I know people are like, oh, he was catching passes from like Thigpen and stuff. Like, yeah, for like a year here and there, he did. But Trent Green was a baller, dude.
Trent Green was good.
He was a baller.
People sleep on how good Trent Green was.
From 2001 to 2005, the only quarterbacks that had more yards and touchdowns than Trent Green were Peyton Manning and Brett Favre. Like, think about that for a second. And his best receiver outside of Tony Gonzalez was Eddie Kennison. Love him, but Eddie Kennison was not a wide receiver 1. He was a good wide receiver 2. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm saying. Like, and they ran the ball more than like any other team outside of like the Chargers.
Concussed,
I remember 3 or 4 times at the end.
I remember
he took some dirty hits, bro.
Yeah, I saw him get killed in one of the games.
Against the Bengals, got destroyed.
He was out cold.
The Bengals always be doing shit. So that's where we have it. That's where we kind of encapsulated the draft as a whole. I'm very pleased with it. I don't anticipate it's going to be as good as 2022's. Go ahead.
Chief Concern says, "Hey, now don't dog on Thigpen."
Well, I think is the guy. Look. Let me clarify something, because I know my guy Marcus loves him, and I love him too. He's been on their show. I love Thigpen. Oh, okay, yeah. The thing I love about Thigpen is he saved us from such horrific seasons. I don't want to say season.
Hall of Famer, Tyler Thigpen.
The dude, like, we knew the team sucked, and they always ended up losing games, but he always had, like, this one highlight play. Like, I remember he caught a touchdown in a game Trevor and I went to. Like, it was like 8 degrees outside. We were miserable. And he caught a damn touchdown. It's fun stuff like that, man. I absolutely loved and I appreciate. And we're gonna expand on Thigpen more. But you know what? We got some other things we need to get to, guys, because we have a guest today for the second time in 3 weeks, which is something that I have been very excited and exuberant about when it comes to adding to the quality of what we do here at the Spoken Podcast. I don't know if you guys can hear anything yet, but there it is. So we are honored, we are privileged to have a guy that, like I said at the top of the show, one of the best opinionists out there when it comes to the Chiefs, when it comes to the Chiefs draft. I've been doing spaces, something I was not very privy to before, but my guy Mark Gunnell's got me on there, and DMAC was one of the first guys I listened to. When I jump on the spaces, I like to just listen, and then I'll chime in if I have something to say. DMAC was one of those first guys that I was very much appreciative of when it comes to, when people know what they're talking about. When they've studied, when they've really given something extensive research, and they've looked for it, and they found it, and they've given people an articulate thought. He's one of those guys, which is why we have him on the show today. Kingdom Cast's own, a man that I respect greatly. Let's give it up for DMAC Wakefield.
What's up, y'all? Happy to be here, man. How you doing today, Lance?
We're doing
Eddie,
great, man.
Trev?
We're doing great with you being here. Now you're going to add to the quality of our show because we're just three dipshits here talking football.
Nah, you guys are doing great.
We got to get some brain cells in the equation, you know what I mean? But look, man, first and foremost, thank you for your time. We appreciate you being here. Second of all, we just gave our overall draft grades for the Chiefs. And look, man, I think personally, Trevor gave it an A+. Eddie and I gave it more like B+. And the reason why I give it a B is because I think the Chiefs did as good as they possibly could because it's a very top-heavy draft class as a whole for the NFL. Wasn't great, one of the best, especially not like last year's at certain positions the Chiefs could use. But I think that Brett Veach, with the double-digit draft picks, he did as best as he could, was aggressive, trade up 3 times, went and got guys they really liked that were high-end skill sets, very talented players. But I think a lot of these guys are projects. Guys are going to come around in 2024 and beyond. But that's just my opinion, DMAC. Correct me if I'm wrong here. I think this is a draft class that Brett Veach looked at as a 3 to 5 year window, not so much just 2023. I think he's very confident in the roster moving forward. But these are guys that I think overall are going to be guys that are going to be 2024, 2025, and 2026 guys. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that Brett Veach understood the process of the draft coming in was the most important aspect of it. And I think the positions that he was able to go after really are the things for me that highlight this class. He hit premium positions, obviously, throughout day 1 and day 2. Going after tackle, wide receiver, defensive end, those were the ones that we needed coming into this draft. We needed depth, and we needed, like you said, a future plan at those positions. So starting off with Felix, the board in 31 doesn't necessarily fall for an elite prospect in any way, shape, or form, but you get a guy that can come in from day 1 and give you pass rush juice because of his bend off the edge. And in the future, if you continue to work with him, get him in with Joe Cullen, get him in there with, some extra work that Chris Jones could teach him as far as technique is concerned, he can really develop, especially in the unique skill set that he has. And I think that he complements what you already have with Chris Jones on the inside, what Charles Omenihu is going to bring in the free agent signing, and what George Karlaftis does on the other edge as far as pushing the pocket effectively. And so I thought that was a good day 1 pick for sure. You come back day 2, go Rasheed Rice and Wanye Morris. Both of those guys are going to come into the room, compete for spots day 1, and if not, then they will come in and be future plans, like you had said. Wanye Morris, a guy that's athletic with the tackle position, has the length that they're asking for, has both left and right tackle experience. So if you need a swing tackle, he's a guy that can be that backup, or he can compete at the right tackle position. We'll get into the tackle spot in general later on as well. And Rasheed Rice is a guy that I did like in the draft process, simply for the fact that he understands how to compete at the catch point, has very strong hands. Separation is a question mark. He does have explosion off the line to occasionally beat press. He does need some technique footwork there, as far as also his route running as well. But what you're talking about is an athlete that understands how to go and get the ball, and I think that's a very important skill, one that in some wide receiver rooms of the past we have lacked in certain respects as well. You talked a little bit about the Shamar Connor pick. It's a classic day 3 Veach guy, has a lot of experience, a lot of versatility, can go from the safety position to the nickel outside, also play a little bit as well. I love the fact that he has that versatility. That's a guy that they can mold similar in the way that they have molded L'Jarius Sneed into a very versatile defensive back as well. And then, BJ Thompson is my personal favorite pick from this class, simply for the fact that it's a very unique type of skill set to what we have seen in this defense under Spags for the last few years. BJ Thompson is a guy that comes off the edge with a lot of speed, a lot of length. He will threaten to run that hoop every single time. And if your tackle cannot get to that outside shoulder, he will put your quarterback in a bind as far as having to step up before he's ready to even get to the top of his drop. And so that skill set is something that we haven't really seen here in Kansas City for a few years, to say the least. And so what they choose to do with him, obviously he's going to continue to bulk up as he already has to start this offseason. We'll see where ultimately his weight may land, but he's got a huge frame. He's a guy, like I said, that comes off the edge with speed, and I think it's a representation of what Joe Cullen's influence has brought to this table and ability to give multiple looks to offensive lines, really try to put them in a bind as far as what you send after him with pass rush. You mentioned Keandre Coburn, that guy, he's going to come in day one, play the run well, and he has a little bit of pass rush upside. We'll see exactly how that's able to develop, but I thought that was an excellent pick in the 6th round to go ahead and add to that defensive line group in a way that we really needed to. Nick Jones is a guy that reminds me a lot of actually Rashad Fenton, a guy that understands how to stay in receivers' hip pockets. And the thing about him is he's a lot longer and he's a little bit taller than Rashad Fenton, and that's an important thing for his development. So even though guys like Connor and Jones are going to come in, really be more special teams guys, day one, we'll see what their upside can be and how they can possibly add to this defensive back room, in the future. And so you say in the future plans, the process of the positions that were taken is more important necessarily than the players, but I also like the players in the way that they can be used now and into the future as well. So for me, he got a solid B. I thought Brett Veach did a good job. He understood what the board was giving him. He understood where to trade up to go and get the guys that he wanted, not necessarily in day one as he tried to, but also in day two where he had to go and get the positions that he wanted. So I thought it was very good, very solid B class for Brett Veach.
5 of their 7 draft picks were defensive players. 18 of their last 29 draft picks have been defensive players. This is music to my ears, even though obviously we know that this team's going to forever go as far as Patrick Mahomes goes, because his health, his availability, his ability to continue to climb and become an even better, more evolved quarterback is what's going to ultimately decide whether the Chiefs continue to dominate the AFC and get to more Super Bowls. But we also know that if the Chiefs are trying to replicate or come close to what the Patriots did for 2 decades, you're going to have to continuously give your star quarterback a great defense to rely on. And that's why I love that I think that Brett Veach he knows the assignment. He understood the assignment here, that if you're going to replicate something like this or even try to get better than what the Patriots did, you have to make sure that Patrick Mahomes knows I don't have to score 35 a freaking game to win a game by 3. If we score 35, we better be winning by two touchdowns. We better be dominating an opponent if we're up here scoring in the mid-30s. Now, the Chiefs have averaged at least 28 points per game for 5 straight years. That's an NFL record. So I don't think that they're going to lack scoring anytime soon. But to be able to give Patrick Mahomes to alleviate that pressure on him basically as he continues to age is something that I think is so key, and I think Brett Veach understands that. Having said that, in this draft, I was somebody that said I wanted to see the Chiefs go for a tight end early. I wanted to see, because this was a very good tight end draft class. I wanted to see the Chiefs do that because we also know that in October, Travis Kelce will be turning 34. I'm expecting him to still be great. I think he's going to have a baller season. I think he's got a couple more baller seasons in him, and he's probably going to age pretty well because he's never taken big hits. He's never gotten injured, but age is still a thing, man, especially at a skill position like tight end. I wanted to see that happen. So that was the one area that I would have liked to see the Chiefs kind of venture into in this draft. I'm not mad about it, but that was something I was kind of hoping for. But if there was a position, because the Chiefs went DN, wide receiver, offensive line, DB twice, defensive end, and defensive tackle. Was there a position that the Chiefs didn't go after that you would have liked to see them go after, or was there a position that you would have liked to see them kind of double dip in that they didn't double dip in?
Well, yeah, look, I thought that it was always going to come down to how the board ended up falling. So the fact that they went edge early on, I thought that they could have taken 3 guys along the defensive line. The fact that you get a guy like FAU and you go and get BJ Thompson, that makes a lot of sense for me. You mentioned obviously tight end. That's certainly in a position that I had taken a lot in mock drafts that I've been doing. I thought that this, like you said, was a very good tight end class, guys that can block, guys that have a lot of athleticism, some catching upside as well. I thought that you could have added to that room, but I also understand why, given what that room is right now, that maybe you pass on that for different positions of value. The other position that really stands out to me would have been running back. And that would be a position that me personally, I would always have reserved for a 6th or 7th round pick, a guy with athleticism, a guy that you can come in and mold and really be a compliment to Pacheco. Ultimately, though, I think that they did a good job at understanding where the value was falling And they still had a lot of running back options as UDFA guys that they could bring in. And one of those guys, of course, that they did bring in was DMAC Prince. And so ultimately, I think that they did a good job of understanding what positions to attack at what times. And I can't really complain about what they ended up doing as far as the positions are concerned. And I'm really excited to see what guys like DMAC Prince or the linebackers that they brought in at positions that they didn't necessarily take in the draft can bring to this team.
Yeah, the prince joins the kingdom. You got to love that narrative, man.
Yeah,
you know I mean?
yeah.
That's it's like meant for it. You know what I mean? Just,
We got a King Prince, or we got a King Felix and a DMAC Prince to add to the kingdom, man.
He's got the kingdom rolling in full swing, man.
Absolutely.
Look, I tried my best on Twitter, DMAC, to clarify my thoughts on what I'm saying, because I'm not somebody that is intentionally trying to, have hot take, tweets. I'm not somebody that wants to do that. But I am somebody that has strong opinions, and oftentimes I get confused. Look, I trust Brett Veach. I wouldn't want any other GM out there to run this team than Brett Veach. I think he's more than earned his stripes and earned the benefit of the doubt from all of us Chiefs fans. He's done an incredible job over these last 3 or 4 years in particular. But, I mean, let's be honest, DMAC, there's some things that happen that, can confuse us at times. And for me, the Donovan Smith signing is something that I'm not opposed to, but I am confused about based upon the reports we're hearing about the context of why he's being brought in. We're hearing from certain people like Nate Taylor and other people that are saying that there's a really strong chance he could start at left tackle this year. Okay, DMAC, you know this even better than I do. The dude struggled really bad last year, and I've been hearing from Bucs fans and other people that are like, dude, you do not want this guy starting for the Chiefs offensive line next year. But then there's people that are like, no, this is the right signing. You move Juwan Taylor back over to right tackle. Everything's good. But I have a problem with that from that side as well, because Juwan Taylor just got $60 million guaranteed. And although that's not, something that's, reprehensible to sign a top-tier right tackle to that kind of money, that also, to me, is ill-advised for a team like the Chiefs, because they just won a Super Bowl with a journeyman, undrafted player in Andrew Wiley playing right tackle. So that's not something you necessarily have to do at right tackle. So I thought you get Juwan Taylor, $60 million guaranteed. Oh, he's playing left tackle. But now it's like, you don't really know where the pieces fit, and I feel that the positions that are protecting your franchise player, you might want to know where the pieces fit exactly. So I'm going to sit back, trust Brett Veach, obviously, but I have my concerns. I'm confused about where the piece is going to fit. DMAC makes sense for me. Makes sense for me what this Donovan Smith signing is. How do you see it fitting? Is he going to be a starter? Where the hell is Juwan Taylor playing, man? You got to help me out with this one.
Look, well, I'll say this. The way in which the news was rolled out was hilarious to me, especially the way that you saw all of the reports come out afterwards. Everybody on the timeline was freaking out and all the same. So you're certainly not alone in that, Lance. But it's funny because coming out of the draft, I felt that you were sitting there in the tackle position. You have obviously added Ronye. You know that Lucas Niang has his injury issues, but played well in previous years. And you have signed Juwan Taylor to big money to play either one of those spots. I felt that it was very interesting that they didn't necessarily add a different tackle, whether it was in the UDFA class or during the draft as well, because Prince Taya being your 4th tackle in the room doesn't really sit well with me. Incoming the Donovan Smith signing. Donovan Smith is a guy that has had previous years that he played very well for the Buccaneers, played obviously on the championship team as well. Last year struggled with injuries, had a dip in his play, certainly did not play well, especially because of his hyperextended elbow. Really took away his ability to get his hands on people, and that's a lot of times in which he wins. He has solid athleticism as well, but his hand usage is very technical, and that's a really aspect of his game that's very impressive. And so that taking away from him definitely, lowered the level of his play. What he comes in, he's an 8-year veteran. He's a guy with over close to 1,000 snaps at left tackle specifically. It gives you a basis for that position. You have a veteran to give you a floor in the group of saying, hey, if everything goes poorly, I know this guy can play left tackle in the NFL, even though we know we have to try and possibly move over, a guy like Juwan Taylor to that left side of the line. For me, when the signing came down, I was a little bit on the confused side as well. I figured that they needed another tackle in the room, a guy with left tackle experience. I thought that from that perspective, Donovan Smith makes sense. Given the fact that this was not a $9 million contract, that it's up to $9 million and it's going to be a lower than $4 million base. We'll see what exactly the details end up being. This is going to be a chance for Donovan Smith to show that he is either the Donovan Smith of old at left tackle, in which he can come in from day one of camp and show that. If he's able to, then I believe they'll leave Juwan Taylor at right tackle. which obviously we know Taylor can play at the high level. You will have bookend tackles that are veterans that understand how to play the positions well, and you will roll forward with that. Have Wanye Morris be more of a swing tackle and Lucas Niang be a backup at right tackle specifically. If not, then you will move Taylor over to left tackle, have Wanye and Lucas Niang compete for that right tackle position, and have Donovan Smith be a left tackle veteran backup, which is fine. The money that he's going to be getting, whatever that $4 million base, salary is, that is perfectly fine backup left tackle money as far as you're talking about for a veteran player. And so from that perspective, I understood the process for Veach. Now, of course, it does not, it's not like it's a completely foolproof plan. You're taking a gamble if you're either saying that Donovan Smith has to have a bounce back year at left tackle, or if you're saying you're moving Jawan Taylor, a guy that's played exclusively right tackle in the league, over to left tackle. They believe in the athleticism. They believe in the feet. They believe in the length. They believe both of these guys, whoever they end up putting out there as far as out of two of the four, will end up being upgrades over what they had last year. Now, there are fair arguments given the pressures given up by those guys last year in Wiley and Orlando Brown Jr., who we will give credit. They were championship tackles, and they helped us win a lot of games for sure. But they did give up a whole lot of pressures in the process, and that's understandable why people would make the argument why, even at a basis, they will be an upgrade simply for what we're moving forward. It was clear that Brett Veach and Andy Reid got together at the end of this year and said, we want to upgrade the athleticism of our tackle position throughout the room. And I think they accomplished that at a high level, whether you're talking about Donovan Smith, the guy that's even in his later years has been able to move very well, whether you're talking about on screens, whether you're talking about pulling, etc. Guys like Jawan Taylor, who has excellent feet, excellent length, and you've seen that obviously in the workout videos. He looks very spry as well. Wanye Morris, a guy that was heralded for his athleticism, whether it was playing left tackle in Tennessee or playing right tackle in Oklahoma. And Lucas Niang, coming out of TCU, had solid athleticism as well. So I think the ultimate goal was to improve the athleticism of the position, and that ultimate goal has been achieved. Specifically now with the Donovan Smith signing, they have veteran experience at each of those tackle spots. And that coming into camp is more important necessarily than having set positions. They'll let the competition run its course and see who comes out on top.
We know that the Chiefs love to always add those veteran edge rushers, those mercenary, a hit for hire kind of guys, 1-year deals, low end, with the base salary, but high incentives potentially. We know that Melvin Ingram, we know that Carlos Dunlap, even back to Terrell Suggs, if you want to consider him an asset to this defense in some regard back in 2019. Look, man, I think that there's guys out there that are still very adequate for this defense moving forward this season that they can go and add. And DMAC, I presented this to a guest of ours previously, and they agreed with me after I painted the scenario this way. So just briefly go with me on this. If I told you that the Chiefs could add a pass rusher that, although he's 34 years old, he's still very, very effective. He's had 33.5 sacks in that span. 9.5 of them were last season. He's only missed 4 games. He's had, I think, over 40 quarterback hits in that span. Like, he's been a very effective player. If I told you that the Chiefs can go get that guy on a 1-year, $3 to $5 million deal, would you sign up for it? Yes or no?
Absolutely. I know who you have in mind, but I absolutely would.
Yeah, it's Justin Houston.
Yep.
At this point, man, I know the past. I get it. Mm-hmm. But the past is the past, because since he's been off this team, the Chiefs have won 2 Super Bowls. Like, it's a different – the mended fences, man, is what I'm saying. Like, you got to fix things. You got to work things out, and it's good business to add a guy at that level still playing that good to a defense could very much use a good veteran pass rusher to help these young guys, because you're talking about B.J. Thompson. You and Trevor both are high on that pick. I like the pick too. Who better, man, to have on the team than a guy like Justin Houston that has the experience in this league, 100-plus sacks in his career? That's the perfect guy for helping the team this year to coaching these guys up for the next 3 to 4 years. What are your thoughts, man? I mean, I'm not even saying it's a possibility, but, man, it should be. What are your thoughts, D-Mac?
Yeah, look, I'm somebody, I did a little bit of a post-draft roster prediction on KingdomCast's Twitter account. Anybody can go over there and check it out. I left open a spot for a veteran edge player to come in and compete in camp for one of these 53 roster spots, because it makes sense to have that type of guy on the roster. You saw the wealth of knowledge that Frank Clark and Carlos Dunlap brought to the table during camp, all of the times that George Karlaftis was after practice just working with them on hand usage, all of those techniques. That's important things that can be brought to a room when you have a veteran like that. And so I had put Frank Clark or Carlos Dunlap in possibility as guys that could be signed to that spot. Obviously, we know Justin Houston, like you said, is a guy with wealth of experience, of wealth of production, a guy that can still give you some rotational snaps as an edge for sure. He could be a part of that possibility as well. A guy, I talked about a little bit, Yannick Ngakoue. He's sitting out there as a free agent. He hasn't been signed. This is a time in which these, veteran guys start to see, okay, maybe I'm not going to get the contract that I really wanted. Maybe I can go and chase a ring in a sense and try and get there for a guy that I can rebuild my value and go out into the market next year and really get some more money. He's a guy that's only 28, coming up this year. So it's interesting to see. I don't think that they're done with acquisitions. Certainly the Donovan Smith and Jet McKinnon post-draft compensation formula May 1st signings make a lot of sense. And I think that you will see them possibly add another veteran. And I think edge is certainly a spot where they can attack as far as adding before camp for competition.
I'm so glad you brought up these whole, adding veterans, portion of this. I'm so glad you did that, DMAC, because that segues perfectly into my next question. So look, the hill is starting to thin out. People are leaving me here, man. I feel like I'm alone here. It's sometimes it's very, very isolated feeling that I'm experiencing on this particular hill. But I'm going to die on this hill, DMAC, because I'm not giving up on this dream here. Okay?
Jesus.
And I got to ask you, because you're the one that knows what the hell is actually happening. I'm just this guy that's dreaming over here. I'm over here in the clouds. Look, dude, there isn't this team as currently constructed is very talented, top to bottom. I very much love the way this offense looks. I've always believed that you draft defense and you pay for offense if you're trying to win Super Bowls. The Chiefs have an opportunity here in the next month or so to get themselves a guy that I think can be an absolute difference maker on the offensive side at the wide receiver position. I'm not giving up on it. I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to get cut, and I think if the Chiefs want to add that much more talent and make the job for Patrick Mahomes that much easier moving off of 2022, that's the kind of guy you go get on a low base deal and add an insane amount of incentives for him based on production and success for the team. Because you mentioned something just now about Ngakoue, a guy, I think he's only, 28, 29 years old, if I'm not mistaken. So he's got an opportunity to go and get legitimate money after this year, which is very shocking. He's a free agent. I actually forgot about that. But to the point of DeAndre Hopkins, think about the scenario for him. If he goes on a one-year deal with a team like the Chiefs, let's say they just get to the Super Bowl, and he has a 85 reception, 1,000-yard season with 7-8 touchdowns. They get to the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl. You're going to tell me right now, even at 31 years old with some of the PED scandals and injury concerns he's had, if he has a season even close to that, the Chiefs have a great season again. You don't think there's going to be a team out there that's going to offer him a 3-year deal that's going to pay him $18 million a year? Like, it's going to happen. It's going to be out there for him. And on the Chiefs side of things, with these young dudes who we all like, big time on Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, Rashee Rice, I think those guys are all going to be significant contributors in 2024, 2025, potentially 2026. But right now, the Chiefs need that difference maker at wide receiver one. And you know Andy Reid's offense, rookies usually don't contribute at a high level at the wide receiver position. So unless you're telling me that there's a wide receiver one on this team right now, which I don't see, I think they need to go and get that guy once he is cut, because I think that's what's going to ultimately and inevitably happen with the Cardinals. Your thoughts, DMAC?
Well, I'll say this. You've obviously been on this hill since the start of the offseason, and I completely understand. Look, DeAndre Hopkins, I still believe, is a very good wide receiver in this league, legitimate guy that can get the job done. And I've kind of been sitting at the bottom of the hill, just kind of with my legs crossed, just waiting patiently. The reason being is because it never really made sense for the Cardinals to make a move with DeAndre Hopkins until it's gotten to June. And there's a specific cutoff for the way in which that contract is structured for June 1st, and the way in which the Cardinals can move that money around and not have it affect their cap as much as it would if they were to make a move before then. And so the reports that came out from interesting sources before the draft that something was going to happen on day 1 or day 2 of the draft, I never really bought into, because it's not June yet. As far as that's concerned, I think the Chiefs are never going to rule out adding talent to this roster, whether it's a veteran, add value. And so if the Cardinals come to a point where obviously they're not going to get a second-round pick for DeAndre Hopkins, they say, okay, well, maybe we'll take a 5th next year in 2024. That's a conversation that I think that Brett Veach and them are going to have about. If it comes to the point where the Cardinals are like, well, we just need to cut bait. He clearly does not want to be here. We need to get this money off the books. It's time to cut bait. We know we're tanking next year. Let's just go ahead and move on. And he's a free agent. I think that Brett Veach and the Chiefs are absolutely going to have a conversation for it. And like you laid out, it makes sense for DeAndre Hopkins to want to come into this situation where he can get those targets next to Travis Kelce, where he can win a ring, with obviously catching passes from Patrick Mahomes, learning under Brett Veach and coaching. He can come into this situation, like you said, rebuild his value up after obviously the suspension and injury issues, and show that he can be a contributor at a high level on a championship team. That is an advantageous situation for the Chiefs if they're able to get him on a very, like we said, incentive-laden contract, a veteran that can come in, teach guys like Rashee Rice. Rice is a guy that said that he patterns his game after DeAndre Hopkins. Teach guys like Sky Moore, teach guys like Kadarius Toney, down the list of Justin Ross and then Justin Watson as well. So that makes a lot of sense from that aspect. I've always said there's going to be a lot of patience from this, from this part of the offseason. I don't think there was ever going to be a huge DeAndre Hopkins move earlier on in the offseason. As we get close to June, those talks may end up, ramping up, and we'll see exactly how the Cardinals want to handle that contract as we move on through the summer. But Lance, do not give up on that dream, because in my opinion, it hasn't even started to be over with as far as DeAndre Hopkins staying on the Cardinals.
I didn't need the words of encouragement, but it does not hurt when my guy DMAC's like, dude, don't give up. Don't give up on your dream, Lance, because joking aside, man, I do think it's a very, very, I don't want to say likely scenario, but I do think, like you just said, the Chiefs are never closing the door and adding talent. And if there's a guy that gets dropped like D-Hop, like where he's cut, or they're only looking for a 5th or 6th round pick, I mean, at that point, you'd be insane not to do it as the Chiefs when you're a team that's trying to stack championships, that, you can get a guy like that on a low-end deal because, everybody talks about OBJ. Well, he just got $18 million from the Ravens. Yes, but OBJ's in a different place of his career than D-Hop is, because unlike D-Hop, OBJ has a ring, so he can go and chase the bag. And on the other side, D-Hop's already got $111 million in his NFL career. That's not what OBJ's gotten. So OBJ needs to go get that bag now. D-Hop is chasing legacy, and I think that's why teams like the Bills and the Chiefs are the two teams that I do believe will be strong after D-Hop, and quite frankly, D-Hop will probably want to sign with. But one final question here for you, DMAC, and I do very much appreciate your time here, bro. You did briefly mention Jerick McKinnon as the post-May signing. Look, this is a guy I obviously wanted back. A lot of fans love him, as they should. I think he was 3rd on the team in receptions last year, 2nd on the team in receiving touchdowns. He actually had more touchdowns than freaking Justin Jefferson, who was the Offensive Player of the Year. Obviously, we know this guy has been impactful in this offense in both regular season and in the postseason. He's 31 years old. He's undersized. He's had some injuries in his past. Really hasn't had injuries here in Kansas City. That's probably praise to their training facilities and their medical staff. But the point I'm making, though, is that I think this is the guy that they needed to bring back. And even though Veach has never been a guy that likes to add older pieces oftentimes, especially extensions-wise, this is basically like a glorified extension with Jerick McKinnon, even though he's a free agent. This is his 3rd year back with the team. I'm expecting him to still play at a decent level. I don't know if he's going to have 9 receiving touchdowns next season, but I am expecting Jerick McKinnon to be a solid, good contributor for this team moving forward, adding that perspective in the running back position that Pacheco doesn't really bring in the receiving game. I think it's only a good thing. There's no negatives from it, but the age thing is a little bit of a concern. The size and the injury concerns are there, but I feel good about this one. DMAC, how do you feel about year 3 for Jerick McKinnon in Kansas City?
Well, look, I'm excited to have him back. You're talking about a guy that obviously has bounced around the league, has been injured at times, but has come here, and especially in the games that matter most, has really made an impact. And I'm happy to see that guy back in the running back room as a veteran leader. He was a captain last year for the playoffs for a reason. They really trust him. They really want him to be a big voice in that room. And I'm glad that he's here. When you're talking about a guy that in his first, Super Bowl appearance is going to slide down instead of scoring a touchdown because that's the right play for the team and winning a ring, that's the type of guys I want on my team, specifically as far as veteran leadership is concerned. So for Jet McKinnon in his 3rd year, like you talked about, the size, the injury concerns are real. Those things are existing, and those things are only going to be exacerbated as he gets up in there in age. But the reality of the way this running back room has been built is important to me, because Pacheco, we know, should be the lead back. He has showed that, throughout the back half and into the playoffs of the season, leading the Chiefs in scrimmage yards throughout the playoffs on the way to a ring. He showed that he can, hold the lead back job down for a consistent aspect, as he should. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, obviously much maligned by the Chiefs fan base, to say the least. he is a guy that I think is Jet McKinnon insurance, and not necessarily in the way that he's the backup, but simply that early on in the year when Pacheco was having those lead back carries, and they're going to bring in somebody to spell him, I think it's going to be more Clyde Edwards-Helaire than Jet McKinnon, simply because they want to keep McKinnon fresh for the playoffs. And I think that's a very good way to go about your running back room, to have McKinnon ready for the games that matter most down the stretch, and have CEH do the things that he's fairly good at, which is receiving, pass blocking to an extent, not necessarily to the level of Jet, but enough so that it makes sense to keep Jet fresh for the games that matter most. And so I like the way that they have kind of set that up, and I think that's the way that they're going to divvy up those carries and touches early on to make sure that Jet is ready, really, and able for the games that matter most. And I think that's the most important part. I don't think Jet is going to be tied for sixth in the league in receiving touchdowns as he was last year, but I think he certainly is going to be making an impact in January and February like he has.
Well thought out. Well said. I don't expect anything less from DMAC. Eddie, you have something to add?
I was going to ask, do you think this is CH last season with the Chiefs?
Yeah, I do expect it to be. I mean, CEH is a guy that obviously did not have his fifth-year option picked up, and look, that's a pricey option for a running back, and so I understand why it wasn't picked up. I expect him, pretty much to be gone next season, and that's fine. I think he still has a role to play for this team this season, and look, as I said, I think at the beginning of last season, Chiefs fans, we got to kind of get used to these guys that we end up drafting or we bring in and get maybe some attachment to. Maybe not CEH in this case, but, there are other guys that we're going to have to say goodbye to, that they're going to come in for their rookie contracts and say thank you for your contributions and go get paid elsewhere. And so I think CEH will end up being that guy, but I do think he has a role to play on this team this year, and I think it'll be an important one, specifically as long as it keeps Jet McKinnon ready for the games that matter.
I like it. Good question, too, Eddie. I didn't think about that one. So, DMAC, before you go, man, again, first of all, thank you so much for your time and articulating your thoughts here and, not shitting on my dreams with D-Hop. That's the most important part of all that, obviously. But, no, first of all, man, I want to say congratulations with Kingdom Cast, and Kingdom Cast, congratulations with DMAC, because that's one hell of an acquisition, man. They do great stuff over there. I got to hang out with Chuck this last week with JD and all the guys, and it was a great time. And I think it's a great opportunity for you, and it's a great opportunity for them to add to the equation of what they're doing over there. But it's good stuff over there, great content. I have no doubt you're going to crush it over there, man. Continue to do what you do, but let the people know where they can find your work across the social media platform landscape. Let them know where they can find your stuff, man.
Absolutely. You can find me on all social media here at DMAC Wake 316. Like you mentioned, Kingdom Cast. I'll be dropping my first Kingdom Cast film analysis and breakdown specifically this weekend to be about Rashee Rice. So talk about a little bit about his skill set, what he can bring to the offense. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll be dropping some other film reviews specifically of the prospects as we add throughout the summer. Felix, of course, Wanye. I'll try to find some Stephen F. Austin tape of BJ if I can. I'd also be doing some Connor take as well from Vodtech. And then also we'll be doing a little bit as we get further closer to camp, a little bit of film review specifically of the key position battles. I'll be trying to get as much tackle tape as I can for Niang, for Donovan Smith and Juwan Taylor, so we can put that together, show you guys a little bit of preview of what they're going to bring to the table. And then also, we'll see coming on, I'll be going on a little bit more of the podcast as well, talking with those guys. Definitely happy to be a part of the fun family with Country, Boogie, and Kylie and Chuck as well. So definitely looking forward to that. And then also when the season does start, we'll be doing again the Red Friday Spaces. That's I always do it Friday around 6 p.m. Eastern time. Please do come by, even if you don't want to grab Mike. Absolutely listen. We have a bunch of fans on. We also ask questions, go over the news of the week, et cetera, et cetera. We do that every single Friday. And then also I will be having a little bit of a broad NFL podcast that I'll be starting up when the season begins. So be on the lookout for that as well. So yeah, that's what I got going on, man.
You guys now see why I have the dude on? I mean, he's constantly working. The fact he had a Saturday slot available for us, we just appreciate it. So DMAC, you're the best, bro. And just for the record, there's plenty of space left on this D-Hop hill, man. So you have to stay there at the base of it. You can climb that bad boy up, bro, and hang out with me, man, because I think it's going to happen. That's just my point. That's just my opinion. But
hey, I might be climbing up there with you as June gets closer, man. Happy to be on, Lance. Appreciate it,
my guy. We'll have you back on before the season. I promise you that, man, because you're awesome at what you do. So that's our guy, DMAC. DMAC, thank you so much for being here with us, brother.
Absolutely. Eddie, Trev, good to talk to you guys, Lance. I'll see you around, man.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. That's our guy, DMAC Wakefield. If you're not following him already, you're missing out, guys. He's like I said, he's one of the most respected dudes I came in contact with on Chiefs Twitter. And he's on Spaces all the time, and he's one of those dudes, man. Like I said, that he's not looking for hot take reactions, things like that. He's just a very articulate dude that just states facts, gives you guys what he thinks is going on in the world of sports, in particular with the Chiefs, because I know that's what 95% of our following is, and that's why we wanted him on to talk about this draft, talk about these moves the Chiefs have been making, man, and I really appreciate his time. So go follow him, go follow the Kingdom Cast. They have great work over there as well. And man, before we know it, guys, we're gonna be talking training camp. Like, it's gonna be here immediately.
I was just gonna say, Chiefs Concerned, a pretty good point here. When we were talking about CH and how this is potential, pretty much his last season with KC, he commented he'll sign with Cincy next offseason to join up with Burrow and Chase. And I'm like,
that's actually not a bad idea. That's really he was a magnificent piece.
We do not care.
No, it's true. That's
we might.
If Clyde ends up being a free agent, which we expect him to be after 2023,
Joe Burrow,
that is an ideal spot for him.
Sure.
Now, does he fit with Bengals' offense now? Because obviously
I think
Joe Burrow's had to
their
change
offense
a little
great.
bit here and there.
I think he'll fit their offense fantastically.
Yeah.
I think he'd be a great pick, man. Marcus is nailing it on that one. I agree with that one. I didn't even think about that.
Sure. We got Pacheco. We'll be all right.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a great point though. We appreciate that. And I appreciate DMAC again, man. Go follow the guys at Kingdom Cast. They do great work, and he's definitely one of the most respected voices of the Chiefs community. Let's go ahead and transition this bad boy, man. Let's make this happen. I know we got, like I said before the beginning of the show, we got so much going on in the world of sports just today as we're live streaming this, in particular MMA, NBA, UFC, like I said, UFC, and then you have the what's it called, the wrestling card, and you have boxing. I mean, we got a ton to go on.
Busy Saturday.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Let's get to the Eddie Hour, man, because I'm sure he wants to dabble in a little bit of it all. Actually, you know what? I don't want to take this over. We discussed something, Eddie, before the show a couple of days ago. Remember, we were talking about the statement that was brought out about Sporting KC.
Yes.
I want to start, if we could, with the Eddie Hour. I want to get your thoughts on what happened. You let the people know what we're talking about, because I know I'm kind of being loosely translation here, but let the people know what happened and what your thoughts are on that.
Okay, so I kind of brought up the whole Sporting KC thing, and I've been bringing it up vocally for the past 2 years. And that it's time to move on from Peter Vermees. I think it's time. It's been time. I think we're 2 years too late, and it still hasn't happened. I don't know what it is that we just keep him here. So just to give you context, Sporting KC is dead last in MLS. In 10 games, they only have 3 points. That is depressing. That is sad. That is bad. That is terrible. That's not who Sporting Kansas City is, and that's not who Sporting Kansas City has been. But more and more fans started joining that aspect in it's time to move on from Peter Vermees. And Sporting Kansas City, I think, just gave him a 5-year extension, I think, last year. Nobody really knew or understood that move for Sporting Kansas City, and now we're starting to see the effects of it. He's in charge of all the signings. He's like the president of operations as well in Sporting Kansas City. So he controls everything about Sporting, in what he adds to the roster, what he lets go on the roster. Any roster moves, that's Peter Vermees. Right. And usually in soccer we have, kind of like the Mark Donovan for the Chiefs, you know what I mean? And then you have Brett Veach, and then you have, obviously, Andy Reid. Yeah. Andy Reid does have some say, but at the end of the day, it comes down to Brett Veach and Mark Donovan and what they can do and what they want to do, you know what I mean?
Right.
And in Sporting Kansas City, it's not that way. In Sporting Kansas City, it's Peter Vermees and Peter Vermees only, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think if we move him to that role of just becoming that guy, kind of like that Brett Veach of Sporting Kansas City, I'll be fine with it.
Right.
But I think it's time to let new fresh-minded head coach coming in here and taking the reins of Sporting Kansas City. And this is not just with the game itself, of how they've been playing lately, but also as an organization, they have been failing fans in the season tickets. They've been raising the prices, and they really haven't given any perks. And I'm not just saying this to say it. I mean, Casey Cauldron, the supporters, the diehard supporters of Sporting Kansas City, the ones that when you go to the stadium you hear, singing and chanting and having a good time. they came out and put out a statement and said that the organization is failing fans as a whole, not just the players on the field, but the organization as a whole, in not having enough events for fans, or doing certain things for fans, and the fans now for sporting are kind of feeling like they're just second-handed, they're just being abandoned, they're not being heard. And Casey Cauldron, said, what, enough is enough, and I think we have to raise our voice. And they sent out an email to Sporting Kansas City, and kind of voice everybody's opinions. And I can read a little bit of it for you guys. Sorry, I'm taking a lot, but
dude, no, we wanted you to expand on this.
Here, let me read. So, the Kansas City Cauldron has always been committed to supporting our team through the good, the bad, and the ugly. To the players, we will always have your back, and we will be cheering for you and your sex every match. We see that this season is not up to the high standards Sporting has consistently met, but please know we support you, and our qualms are not with you. It just pretty much goes in detail of like I said, organization failures and how there hasn't really been any movement to even make the team better. You know what I mean? Like, yes, we brought in Alan Pulido, but that was 2 years ago. He missed the entire last year. Yeah. It's just we've been struggling. We really haven't been scoring any goals. We just lost to last place, second to last place, I guess you can say, because Sporting Kansas City is dead last. But we lost to the Eastern Conference last place, 3-1.
Right.
We got trashed at home, like destroyed. And this Sporting Kansas City team it looked lost. It looked like they never played together for years. It was embarrassing to see what was happening on the field. Fans were starting to yell, Peter Vermees out or something like that, to that extent. It's time. It's time, and we've been 2 years too late. It's time to make some kind of movements. And I hope with this statement that Casey Cauldron put out and sent to Sporting Kansas City, start something. Because, my God, it's just terrible. We're supposed to be the soccer capital of America. We're not. We're embarrassing capital of America when it comes to soccer. We're supposed to hold these guys to the high standards. They've shown us that they can be first place, second place. We've won MLS Cups. Like, it's not that. It's just time for a change. It's kind of like, put it this way. It's kind of like when the Eagles and Andy Reid. Andy Reid's a great head coach, one of the best in history of the NFL.
Right.
But it came a point in the Eagles' tenure that it's time to move on. You know what I mean? The cycle is done. It is time to
it ran its course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what did the Eagles do after firing Andy Reid a few years later? They ended up winning a Super Bowl. They ended up making another Super Bowl. So it's time to make a move, to make a change.
And to your point, Eddie, to bring it here locally, or not locally, but to the other side of the city with the Chiefs, if we remember specifically when things were getting at its absolute worst, what happened? Our guy Marty McDonald and a few others created Save Our Chiefs.
Yep. Mm-hmm. The fans have a voice.
They're like, look, we've been loyal as shit. And we sold out your crowd from 91 to 2011. But 2012 is where we draw the freaking line. This team sucks. Scott Pioli sucks. Every coach you guys have been giving us sucks. Enough. And then Clark Hunt's like, well, we're going to lose money, which is the number one objective to make. You got to make money here. Let me go and get a coach. And he went out and got Andy Reid. And it was perfect timing because the Eagles just fired him.
It was like the
he
very
flew
next
out.
day.
Yeah, he flew out. It's like, I'm not letting you go to your
didn't.
Cardinals interview. I'm not letting you meet with the Chargers because those are the two top teams that were after Andy Reid. Mm-hmm. Clark's like, no. And he intercepted him, got him. That's the exact same thing that needs to happen here. The Cauldron can be like the Save Our Sporting, and then they can go and get a guy that can elevate their team to the next level.
This is an email. This is so the tweet reads, Cauldron members, as a large organization, we felt the obligation to ensure that every voice was heard and considered as we decided how to move forward. As a result of your feedback, we have sent the following letter to Sporting Kansas City and have asked for a counter statement. That counter statement has not happened yet.
And it won't.
And I doubt it will.
Yeah.
I think you're going to start hearing a lot more boos. During that last home match, you heard a lot of boos, especially going into halftime, especially once the game ended.
Going to be drinking a lot more booze, too.
It's the stadiums are no longer being sold out. I mean,
that's wild. Because Sporting always sells out.
Fans are starting to making their voice.
They're getting fed up.
Yeah, and like I said, this is 2 years too late. I'm thinking, I still gave him till 2021 to kind of, it's like, let's give it some time. Maybe it's just it's time. It's time to move on. It's time we did something different with Sporting. I just hope that they listen. The Sporting Kansas City listens and does something very soon, because it's gonna get ugly before it even gets prettier if it doesn't. So, yeah, fuck. Sporting Kansas City, hold yourself. Fuck.
No, I'm glad you expanded on that, because I know there's a lot of people that care about that.
Yeah, it's just sad to see one of your favorite teams is struggling this bad, and the organization's not doing anything to fix it.
Yeah, man.
So that's very depressing. All right, let's move on to some questions. Last week we didn't get to talk about this, so let's talk Aaron Rodgers to the Jets and could we see him and McColl become something out there?
Well, first of all, I think this is the least shocking acquisition of the offseason, because we all knew this was going to happen. There was only one team that was really into Aaron Rodgers, and it was a perfect situation for both sides, where the Packers could get something that was a decent haul in return for a 39, soon-to-be 40-year-old quarterback, who's also the greatest player in their franchise's history. And the Jets have never, and I mean never, had a great quarterback. So he was later in his career. He wasn't great with the Jets, is what I'm saying. You're right though. But just signing the dotted line, Aaron Rodgers became the greatest quarterback in Jets history. Like, automatically. He's significantly better than Joe Namath. He's better than what Brett Favre was at that stage of his career. So this was only going to benefit the Jets, and I think it's great for the Packers, because now, for the first time in 30 years, they get to really figure out what life is going to be like with a not great quarterback. Since I've practically been alive, the Packers have had a great quarterback. That's no longer the case. I mean, Jordan Love can end up being really good. I don't think he's ever going to be a great quarterback. We'll see, though. So the Packers can really figure out what they have at head coach, what they have around their young quarterback. This is going to be a really good opportunity for us to see. When it comes to McCole Hardman and Aaron Rodgers, that I don't know if I really want to put their names clumped together just yet, because although I'm a big McCole guy and I love what he was with Patrick Mahomes and how he fit our offense so well here in Kansas City, I think that they got guys ahead of McCole in New York that, like, similar to what they had in Kansas City, where he's never going to be a top 2 option. Garrett Wilson's going to definitely be their guy. I think they still have Corey Davis on their offense. They just signed who they just signed? They signed somebody else. I forget who it was. They have a good tight end. They have Breece Hall coming back in the running back game. Aaron Rodgers is the type of guy that he usually goes for the top weapon. Garrett Wilson, having had like 120 targets last season, that's going to go up by 35, 40 this year, because he's got a quarterback that will feed him the ball and feed it with precision. So the Jets, I don't want to make any early predictions here, because we don't do that until September. That's our rule here. But this is a significant upgrade for the Jets. I do anticipate that Aaron Rodgers will be healthier this year. He's already significantly more motivated. I mean, just looking at the way he presents himself alone, the fact he's showing up to practices, this is never what he's been doing with the Packers over the last 3 or 4 years. And that's back when he had Devontae Adams. Like, he's doing things with the Jets he hasn't done in a half decade. That's a good sign for the Jets. He feels comfortable there. The Jets love him. They appreciate him. The players are stoked. You saw Sauce Gardner play incredible last year. You saw Garrett Wilson play incredible last year. You saw that team play incredible for the majority of last season. In Week 15, they were in the playoff picture. How much more motivated, how much better are they going to play now they know they have a quarterback they can win with? That's you can't put a price tag on that. So this is a great opportunity for, like I said, for the Jets, more so than the Packers. But the Packers are now really going to figure out what they can do as a franchise now that they no longer have a top 5 quarterback for the first time since Saved by the Bell was on TV.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know Aaron Rodgers is my guy. I love him. He's one of my all-time favorite players. I hate that he's in the AFC now, if I'm being honest. I wish he would find somewhere else to go in the NFC, but it is what it is. I think this Jets team is going to be very good. I think that defense was primed last year. That defense was trouble for every team last year that they faced. So them getting healthier this season too, bringing over Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, some guys he's comfortable with alongside some of these newbies that he's going to be. Garrett Wilson's going to be a stud this year with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you thought he was great last year. He was Offensive Rookie of the Year. I mean, this guy, I think the trajectory takes off this season for him. So all you fantasy players, I think that guy is worth the first-round pick. I think he's going to go off. Yeah, I mean, there's not much more I can say. Aaron Rodgers is one of the best. For me, I think the best talent at quarterback I ever seen until Patrick Mahomes. He's right up there as far as talent-wise goes and what he can do with the football, the throwing of the football. So I think going from Zach Wilson to this guy, a Hall of Fame talent player, it's going to be a massive upgrade. And then you got the stability and the strength and coaching of Saleh, who I think is an absolute great coach on the making. Has had some questionable moves, I think, with Zach Wilson. Them leaning into Zach Wilson was a mistake as well. And I was a fool, too. I thought Zach Wilson has talent, but he's just not. He's just not going to work in the NFL. I think this game's just too much for him, if I'm being honest with you. His decision-making is so bad. But, yeah, I think this is a great move for the Jets franchise. I think Aaron Rodgers is getting paid. It's a win for both sides. It's also a win for the Packers to see what they got in Jordan Love. Yep. You know what I mean? I think Jordan Love, his fill-in position, when he was filling in last year, he looked really good, actually. And I wasn't a believer in Jordan Love, but I think he could have a solid season if they possibly build around him. And if he does, it's a win for the Packers as well. They have the guy for the future, at least for the next decade or so, maybe. Who knows if that works out for them. But yeah, man, Aaron Rodgers got the bag. He's in a better team, a team that wants to build around him. You know what I mean? Which is nice. It was already kind of pre-built, to be honest, but a team that is willing to bring him in and try to find success with him and, have weapons ready to go. That's a stacked team now, both sides. So I think that team, I know we're not making predictions, but that team is an absolute force to be reckoned with, I believe, in the AFC this year, 100%. The AFC is maybe more loaded than we've ever seen, at least in my lifetime. My goodness, there's so much talent.
Without question.
It's insane.
Quarterback alone.
It is insane, man. And we don't know what the Dolphins are going to be like this year, but the Ravens got that much better. The Bengals are going to be right back in the race again. The Bills are going to be right back in. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. You know what I mean? There's so much talent in the AFC, man. It's crazy. But yeah, man. Huge move for the Jets, and I love seeing Aaron Rodgers happy. I love seeing him, having kind of a fresh start here. It's probably good for his psyche. He might have been. I think he was going to kind of a dark place over there.
He looks relieved.
Yeah,
like
you know what I mean.
He looks happier. Like I know there's some people out there that can fake like body language and like. But I'm watching his pressers. I'm like, dude, he just looks like he's like really in a good place.
Seen him at the Knicks games, seen him at the
very involved.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool seeing him.
Alan Lazard is the receiver they got. I'm sorry, I was thinking about
that's
it.
what I said. Yeah, he brought over Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb.
Yeah,
and there was like, did you see the rumors about Jordy Nelson coming out of retirement and join the Jets?
I can tell you for a fact. I know a guy that's good friends with Jordy Nelson. He said like 3 years ago, he's like, Jordy has not touched a football since he retired. He's good with like the country life. He lives in Manhattan, Kansas.
Yeah, he had a hell of a career.
Yeah.
Man. But yeah, those are funny, man. Seeing those. I mean, Randall Cobb, damn, is right up there with Jordy Nelson age-wise, damn near. So he's been around for a while too.
Cobby.
But yeah, man, bring those guys. It's gonna be fun. I think they're gonna be an absolute fun team, tough team to beat. They were a tough team to beat last year. They were a scrappy bunch.
The road schedule is light. Like, I mean, obviously we don't know how these teams are going to pan out, but it looks really light.
Yeah, I know we're not making predictions, but I would love to see a playoff game between Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes.
Well, we keep talking about how the Jets and Chiefs are supposed to play this year, right? I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think they're on the regular season schedule.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so
we're playing the AFC East?
Well, you have the 17th game, so
it might just be a random game thrown in there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they play though this next year.
I was
like painting the narrative like, what if like the first game they play is in the playoffs?
We play Miami at Arrowhead.
Yeah.
Tyreek talking about coming back, talking to shit. Yeah.
You could talk about Kansas City Queefs.
Yeah.
So they have the Jets. Yeah, they do have the Jets.
Hell yeah.
Yep. Obviously it's to be announced when that's going to be.
Are we finally going to see Aaron Rodgers versus Patrick Mahomes?
I mean, who's to say, man?
Or is he going to catch COVID again?
Right. Exactly.
Is it in New York? Do you know if it's a road game or if it's a home game for the Chiefs?
Yeah, it's at New York.
Oh, okay.
It's at New York.
Man, I'm going to go make a statement. That's going to be this season. I can't wait, man. Let's get going already. But yeah, I'm stoked for my guy Aaron Rodgers, man.
And it's funny is the Chiefs also go to Green Bay as well. Like they're going to his old place and they're going to be going to his new place too.
Damn.
Do you think Jordan Love's mom has like
the love row at the time?
Bro, that is still to this day my most successful tweet ever. When I was like, that's Jordan Love's mom's got a great view, and it's like up there in the space.
We did her dirty, bro.
She's concerned, man.
Marcus is out here
he
today,
said Jermichael Finley coming back too.
Yeah, right. Donald Driver, fuck.
The tight end Jermichael Finley had like one great season.
Let's bring them all back, man.
You know, I will say this: I would guarantee that wouldn't happen because Jermichael Finley hates Aaron Rodgers. Like he talks shit on him all the time. But that's funny that Marcus, that's funny as shit, man. Way to go on that one. And let's just start like thinking of old like Bubba Franks.
Craig
Is Bubba
Jennings
Franks coming back?
Craig Jennings coming back.
Puts the
Put
team,
the team
on his back.
back.
Craig Jennings. Oh, that's awesome, dude. That is awesome.
I'm happy for Rodgers though, bro. He looks like he's in a good place.
That's gonna be a tough division. I think
That's putting it mildly.
I think Tua is the third best quarterback in that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Tua's good. Like, Tua's a good quarterback,
not
but
bad.
it's like, yeah, it's without question. It's Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Tua.
Bro, it's not even close.
Like, I would say Josh Allen's the better quarterback between him and Aaron Rodgers now. Would you agree?
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
It is debatable. It is
yes.
debatable.
It's debatable, but I think I agree with you
I
on
would
that.
take Josh
I
Allen.
guess.
Just
I mean,
based
if
on
you wanna-
age,
if you wanna go off-
physical ability.
athleticism,
If you want to
yeah.
go off recent last season, of course Josh Allen was the better quarterback. It wasn't even close, but I still believe Aaron Rodgers. I still believe in Aaron Rodgers.
It's debatable, yeah. It's
you know,
debatable.
I have to wait and see what he is with the Jets before I can say he's
Right.
better than Josh Allen.
Well, what we do know is that he's got a top 10 defense.
I am very
Yes.
biased though.
and he's
so.
got Garrett Wilson's one of the best, I think, 10 best receivers. I think he already
offensive
is.
rookie of the year, man.
I think he's already one of the 10 best receivers in football.
He's offensive rookie of the
Yeah.
year with who throwing the football?
Exactly.
I mean, come on. now.
Literally, like Nick Wright said on his show a couple weeks ago, the Jets not only had the worst starting quarterback, they had the worst 3 quarterbacks playing in the NFL last season based on numbers.
Yeah, and then with
Quarterback rating, all that.
With Brees Hall going down, he became the only real option for that offense.
Right.
He was
And
consistently
he still put up over 1,000 yards at
Right.
8 touchdowns. Like, yeah, Garrett Wilson is
they
going to
had,
be
what,
awesome
3 or
this
4
year.
different starting quarterbacks last
Right.
season.
Yeah.
Like, bro, what? Yeah.
Talking about Jets and rookies, I'm still mad at Sauce Gardner not knowing who Jessica Alba was, but you know.
Bro, that's
Hey,
not,
Julius,
that's Bay. That's
Julius
Bay,
Randle
bro.
does. He took her to the Knicks game the other night. Julius Randle did. He had to give her courtside ticks.
Hey, she's married, man. To
Maybe
me.
cashes into it. I don't know.
That's always my number one.
Moving along.
Who's Donald Lee? Chiefs concern said Donald Lee.
Oh, it's God. What was he? The left tackle? Not left tackle. That's a good one, man. Let me look up Donald Lee.
We're gonna say bring up
you're
all Aaron
stumping me
Rodgers
on-
teammates.
All Aaron Rodgers teammates.
Marcus is stumping me on my own damn show, man.
Devontae Adams gonna be a Jet next season.
Shit. Donald Lee was a tight end as well. God, I forgot about him.
Well, now Brett Favre's got to come back and show out and go to camp and try to beat out Aaron
Steal
Rodgers.
money from Green Bay people.
You think Aaron Rodgers is gonna the Vikings in a couple years?
Stupid, bro. Hell no.
I mean, at the way it's going, it's probably. I'm
Hey,
just gonna say
don't hate
yes.
on my boy Brett, man.
He's gonna live in Mississippi. Was it Mississippi?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, that was.
That's some.
That was a great
that's
meme.
I don't want to
shit,
talk about
man.
his off field. Only his on
Murky
field.
shit. All right.
Oh, shit. All right. Next question. Moving on.
Next question.
Lamar Jackson officially signs with Baltimore.
I was 100% wrong about this one. I said he was gone. He was not going to come back to Baltimore. I didn't even have him in my top 5, the Ravens, top 5 teams that I saw him going to. Because crazy as it sounds, I thought there would be a market where teams would want a former unanimous MVP who's only 26 years old.
You got that no
Call
tag.
me crazy.
That no tag clause too. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yes, I did. I did see that. So look, I am first and foremost so happy for Lamar Jackson. I am so happy because he's the highest paid quarterback in NFL history. He got, $180 million guaranteed. Got himself paid. He didn't get the contract, obviously, he wanted, which was a fully guaranteed. But we all knew
Close
that was
enough.
but close
Shit.
enough. My God. I mean, really, dude. I think it was like $75 million wasn't guaranteed, but the rest of it's just absolutely guaranteed. Like,
Well, wipe your tears in fucking hundreds.
And the biggest point about it is, to that point, is he did it without an agent. I thought it was crazy. I was like, dude, you need to get an agent. Like, this is looking bad because, the offseason was really weird and all this stuff, the way it went. I didn't think this was going to happen.
I do think that limited his options, not having
I would
an
agree.
agent.
I would agree. But at the end of the day, I do think they mended the fences, like I said, with DaCosta and John Harbaugh, and getting him, adding some incentive, going and getting Zay Flowers, 20th overall. That's a really talented offense. They have a really good defense.
Bro.
I think that this is ultimately the best thing for Lamar Jackson because of the familiarity, the fact the fan base loves him.
Built around him.
What's confusing though is, and maybe it was just all his gamesmanship of the offseason, was just the cringiness of like what he was doing, like marketing that little gym that you
Very
walk around
petty.
with, saying goodbye to Ravens fans. Like, it was just a very weird thing. But the Ravens are lucky that Lamar had this in him to say, all right, let's get back to the table, because he could have just been like, F y'all, I'm gonna sit out, y'all got to trade me or else I'm not playing. He could have done that. He very well could have. He didn't. The Ravens will be back in contention next season if he stays healthy, because that's just how good he is and how good they are as a team, as a collective. I thought they had a really good draft overall. Overall, good thing. I'm happy for Lamar. Got his bag, got his money, and quite frankly, because he did, It makes the Patrick Mahomes contract look even better because now Patrick Mahomes, I think, is right now 7th overall in AAV and money, annual money. So, yeah, looks great. So, thank you.
Still waiting on Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert.
And when that comes, Patrick Mahomes will be 9th like I predicted. So, he'll be 9th going into 2023.
Yeah, I mean, we got a massive crow here. I mean, we were not shitting on him, but like, I was very suspect and I was very critical of him representing himself. And I think it did affect him getting offers elsewhere. But he obviously at the end of the day got the job done, and I think with honestly the best team he could have been a part of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, I don't think if anybody, I think he was going to go anywhere and any other team was going to pay up for him and give him that much guaranteed money and give him that big of a contract. It's probably a team that's lesser than the Ravens.
Absolutely.
Ravens is one of the better franchises in this league, man.
And that team would have to give up multiple firsts, so they're screwing their future.
Yeah,
up
and
too.
with one of the best head coaches still very much in this league. John Harbaugh is an absolute top tier head coach in this league.
And they were
regardless how you feel about him.
They were one goal line fumble away from beating the Bengals
Yes, they
in
should
the
have
first
beat the
round of the
Bengals
playoffs
with their
without
backup
Lamar,
quarterback.
Without Lamar.
100%, dude. That is a very well-oiled machine over there. They pump out wins year in, year out. They had their struggles with injuries the last couple seasons for sure, and Lamar's had his struggles with winning big games. But he's got a couple of those off his back, and I think he's a top-tier elite quarterback, at least talent-wise, absolutely in this league. And that's a guy you can build around. He's got a more unique skill set than anybody else in this league.
Yes,
the way he runs is something we've never seen before. You know what I mean? So it's Michael Vick-esque, but that much more. And it's not like he's not a good thrower of the football. He is, and don't let anybody else tell you otherwise. Maybe some intermediate accuracy issues. That's the only real thing. I'm not going to go as far as Big Ben, trying to criticize him that much, but
Ben needed to sit that one.
Yeah,
out.
that was because he's got his issues obviously throughout his career with the accuracy. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a win, man. This is a win for the NFL. This is a win for OBJ. This is a win for the Ravens, and this is a massive win for Lamar Jackson. I mean, he just created generational wealth for him and his family. So I always root for that. I'm always a player first kind of guy. Typically, most of the time, I root for the players to get their money. This is what they've sacrificed their whole life for. And especially a guy like Lamar that was coming in and people were trying to say he should convert to running back. Now he's the highest paid quarterback of all time.
Right.
That's a fucking win. And I support that every single time, a guy that represented himself. So I take a bow to Lamar Jackson and what he accomplished. And, outside of the Chiefs, outside of beating the Chiefs, I root for nothing but success for him in every single game next season. I hope he shows out, and I hope he proves that his worth once again and reminds the NFL who he is and what he's capable of, an MVP in this league. And couldn't be happier for him, man. Congrats.
The Bucs have now pretty much proven to Giannis that the last season was a failure by firing their coach. I want to get your thoughts on that.
This move, this decision that the Bucs made, is it is the epitome of why the Bucs franchise has been a poverty franchise before they got Giannis in the draft. Under no circumstances did this make sense. Under no circumstances. Was this season a failure? Yes, it was. Was it exclusively on Mike Budenholzer? No. And I'm not even, in full disclosure here, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm the biggest Budenholzer fan. I don't think he's the greatest coach in basketball. I don't. I think he's solid. Good coach, right? Definitely good enough to keep his job after winning the damn title 2 years ago. And having the ones he, like Trevor just said, this season. Yeah. With the East being as stacked as it was.
And their roster's not even nearly as good as a few other teams.
Giannis missing time this year. Chris Middleton missing time this year. Drew Holiday missing time this year. Having all this influx. You still have the 1 seed? Like, this is inexcusable behavior. And the worst part about it is, and I'm a big Giannis guy, this does not happen unless Giannis signed off on it. 100%.
Yeah,
he is the franchise. So this means Giannis wanted this to happen. And I hate to put this on Giannis, but
they're not going to surprise
if he
Giannis
would have went to if he had went to the GM and the owner and said, "No, you're not. I do not want Mike gone," they're not firing Mike Budenholzer.
No, he's LeBron in Cleveland.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Literally, yes. Because it's almost the exact same thing when it comes to market, the value of the player for both a financial standpoint and success standpoint.
Brought a championship there. Yeah.
You're not going to find this offseason a better coach than Mike Budenholzer. Yeah. They're not going to be out there. It's not going to happen. So my question is, what was the reason? And quite frankly, I think it's fucked up.
It is fucked up.
He just lost his damn. And I'm not saying you got to keep a guy because
No.
he's family. But again, with everything entailed, like everything included, where you just won a title 2 years ago, it's your first ever, all these other things, like this is great, like all things are going, this season was down and everything like that. But you know what? We have a good nucleus. We can make some moves this offseason. With all that stuff, all the positives still very much there, then he has a tragedy, and then you let him go? Like, he was a Coach of the Year candidate.
Yeah, man.
It does not make any sense whatsoever. Because I'll be honest, when the Raptors fired Dwayne Casey, I thought that was total horseshit. He won Coach of the Year that year, but even more so than that one, at least Budenholzer had a damn championship.
He followed up a couple years after still the 1 seed, this season. So. I don't like the move at all. That's me personally. I feel like it's a shitty move, and I think he's still a great coach in this league. I don't understand why you stole the 1 seed with the so-so roster that was in and out of rotations, and your star players, your stud players, and star player were in and out of the rotation all year, and you still managed to win the 1 seed in the East. That is a very talented East. You got the Sixers, who I believe have a better roster. You got the Celtics, who I believe had the better roster. And you still won the 1 seed. Obviously, it fell apart this season in the first round, which was very unexpected and not likely. But Budenholzer was going through some personal trauma. I couldn't imagine what he was going through. I couldn't imagine what he's going through right now after not only losing his brother, but now unemployed. Man, after bringing a championship to that mediocre vanilla franchise, that's rough. I don't like the move, but maybe there's some internal things that I didn't know about. Who knows? But there's 100% had to be signed off by Giannis. And if Giannis is 100% signing off on that, and unless I'm missing information, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that move. I think, man, I just don't like it. I don't like that. I think it's messed up. His personal situation aside, with his tragic loss of his brother, that aside, that doesn't even really equate to. This is obviously a basketball move, is why they did this, and I don't think it makes sense via basketball reasons. So, whoever picks him up as a coach is going to have a great opportunity to have a new coach. And there's always going to be these teams that need a solid head coach, championship caliber head coach, and he is one of those. And there are very few of those in this league, and he is one of them. So say what you want about the guy. I'm sure there's a big sect of Bucks fans that are very upset about that and kind of puzzled, as am I. But listen, man, I'm very interested to see who they go with. I have a feeling a lot of these teams have been kind of going with, even like with the Lakers going Darvin Ham. No one really expected Darvin Ham to be the head coach of the Lakers, but they did, and it's working out. So there's a chance that they find someone else that's not a big name, and he, helps them take the next step. Sometimes you do need a fresh voice, but I don't like the move personally at the moment.
What are you guys' thoughts on the playoffs, NBA playoffs so far, the games going on now?
Overall, I've been pleased with the playoffs. I think that you're really seeing, more times than not, the NBA playoffs will have the cream that rises to the top. You always have your best teams. The unfortunate side of it, I'll give the negatives first. You're seeing a lot of injuries to key players. I hate that. Like Chris Paul going down again in the postseason. Joel Embiid dealing with injuries again. Yeah, those are things that always suck, and I feel like lessen the quality as it would any other league if a key player goes down for a big team. But overall, I like what I've been seeing. In particular, the fact that you get good storylines. I love the fact that, in particular, the Lakers and Warriors getting that matchup earlier than the Western Conference Finals is wild to me. Like this feels like the Bills and Chiefs facing the divisional round in 2021. Like it just feels like this is way too early, but I'm gonna love this. Like that's how good the playoffs have been already. Yeah. The fact that the Nuggets have taken the narrative against them where they've been disrespected all year, even though they have the 1 seed and one of the best players in the world, they've been, using that as fuel. And they've been taking it to the Suns. They swept the first round with. Oh no, they didn't. They won 5 to the T-Wolves, but they won that series with relative ease. They're 2-1 against the Suns. Outside of Devin Booker, who's been godlike,
so good.
And outside of him playing as well as he did, the Nuggets would be at 3-0. The point is, I love that they're taking that as a driving force. Like, oh, this is something that's going to move us, not intimidate us. That's something I did not expect from a team that's ran by Michael Malone, who I don't know if I really like him as a coach. I'm not really sold on him at all. Do you like Michael Malone? I some of the takes he has about things I'm not a big fan of. I think sometimes he gets kind of lost in himself when it comes to the switching of players. I think sometimes he overthinks things, but that's just me. Darvin Ham does the same thing sometimes. Yep. But overall, I really like it. I think, honestly, this will be one of those championships where and I know people are against the bubble for whatever reason, but like the bubble, whoever wins this particular championship is going to be one of those you're like, damn, they really earned that one. Because as a league, there was no prohibitive favorite, like guaranteed lock to make the finals. Because, when LeBron was going to 8 straight, you knew, okay, it's going to be LeBron versus probably the Warriors. Like, you just kind of knew it.
The number 1 seed's out in the East, the 2 and 3 seed are out in the West already. Like,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah, like there's so much parity in this particular playoff, these playoffs, that, it makes it a lot more fun. Even though I love dynasties, I love rivalries and things like that, I would prefer it this way more times than not, just because of the fact that you don't really know what you're going to get.
Who do you think's been the most impressive team in the postseason so far? Like, that surprised you a little bit? I'm not a surprise, but most impressive just overall, like...
I'm going to say the Nuggets.
Okay.
Because of the fact that, again, this is a team that everybody was like, yeah, they'll be done with, like, in the second round. The Suns, because remember, everybody was saying the Suns are going to be the team that's going to probably get to the finals, and the Nuggets are facing them in the second round. They're going to win this series. Like, I think the Nuggets are the most impressive team. I think the team that is as crazy as it sounds, not getting enough respect is the Lakers. And the biggest reason why is because I think people still have their minds made up on what that team was before the trade deadline.
Yeah.
People still think it's that team. And it's in no way, shape, or form that team, because since the trade deadline, the Lakers have the best record in the NBA. And right now, they have the second best defensive rating in the playoffs. So I think that's the team that I think isn't as crazy as it sounds with AD and LeBron on it, haven't gotten enough respect. Yeah. But I think that the team that I'm going to look at and say, yeah, I'm ultra impressed with them and just how quiet and methodical they've been going about their business. I'm going to say the Nuggets.
Okay. Yeah, so as far, I'll just say mine, I think the most impressive team to me as far as expectations coming into this, barely making it into the postseason and knocking out the 1 seed in the East.
Go with, and I agree.
It's the Miami Heat, dude.
Yep.
I mean, Jimmy Butler, once again, is turning.
They got to win that series, though.
Well, yes. Yeah. Yes. And I think they will, actually. I think they will beat the Knicks. And that starts, I mean, they play again today. And Jimmy Butler's going to be back in the lineup with that after rolling his ankle pretty badly. And they're still, even without Jimmy Butler, they were still pushing them. You know what I mean? They were still, pushing that Knicks team. And that Knicks team is very good. It's a very young roster, very talented guys, well coached as well. But I like the Heat a lot, man. I think that what they did in that first series was completely unexpected, especially in the fashion that they did it, only allowing the Bucks to win one game, and that one game they won was without Giannis, which is wild. So they, for whatever reason, they had their number in that series, man. And what they've done is very impressive. Their series is tied 1-1 with the Knicks. They took game 1. So I think going back into Miami, they go back to Miami now for today's game. So I'm interested to see how they play and back home. It's gonna be a tough fought series. That series could definitely go 7. These teams counteract each other really, really well. But the crazy part is, man, the Heat have lost multiple players. They've lost Oladipo, who was their 6th man, and they've lost Tyler Hero, who was their best shooter on the team. You know what I mean? So they've lost those guys, and yet they still are finding ways to conquer their foe in a lot of consistently. So I like what I'm seeing out of them, and I think they're just a tough team. And year in, year out, that's who they are, and I love what I see out of Jimmy Butler once again in the postseason. So that's my team I think I'm most impressed with. But overall, man, this has been a fun postseason. We've seen some upsets already early in the first round. I'm bummed with the way the Celtics played, or that the Sixers played last night or yesterday. Like that, just there was no heart really. And Embiid is just kind of looked. You can kind of tell he's struggling with that injury. His knee's just not right. He doesn't look like himself out there. But Jason Tatum's absolutely taking these games over, and I love seeing that out of him. I'm hoping he takes that next step. If there's any other team other than the Lakers I'd like to see win the championship this year, it's the Celtics. I really would like to see the Celtics win this year. I would love to see Jason Tatum become a champion and take that next step into superstardom, because he's yet to do that for me. I don't think he's broke out of that ceiling yet. I think this is the chance for him to really do that. And we've been saying that for a couple of years now, if we're being honest. He's incredible during the regular season, but when it comes to the postseason, he kind of shrinks a little bit. But he's kind of been that alpha for the team so far in the postseason. I love seeing that out of him. He played really well last night, the last couple nights in this series. And then the Nuggets Suns. I mean, you talk about Chris Paul going down once again. You know what I mean? But a lot of times when key players to certain teams go down, it forces other guys to show up. Yep. And KD and Devin Booker did just that last night. They had about 88% of the points on the team last night. Yeah, Devin Booker had 47 points on 20 of 25 shooting.
Right.
And only hit 2 free throws. He only had 2 attempts. So I mean, that was incredible. I watched that game last night. It was an incredible performance. Devin Booker refused to lose. maybe the best mid-range shooter in the league at this point. The guy's incredible, man. He finds a spot, and he just doesn't miss. So him and KD were just playing incredible together. Love seeing that. It's a fun team. They have no depth at all, but they found a way to win. They probably won't win this series unless Chris Paul finds a way to come back and help force it to 7. But with the Nuggets, I think they're overwhelmingly talented in that series there. So, when it comes to the Warriors Lakers, this is the series. I think the premier series because obviously the star-studded series that this is between these two teams with LeBron obviously meeting Steph Curry again. This is a basketball fan's wet dream once again that these guys have faced each other, and it's always fireworks in this series between these guys. Whoever comes out on top, but absolute ass kicking last game. AD no show. The inconsistency of AD has got to stop. Even if he shows up just absolutely elite on the defensive side, doesn't have to have 35, 40 points a game. But if he can show up and he just was a no-show on both sides of the floor last game, it was absolutely unacceptable. LeBron was playing incredible in that first half, hitting that big buzzer beater shot. Also, that was the first half was insane. But that second half, the Lakers just bent over. It was horrible. AD was a no-show, so they gotta defend home court tonight. Starts tonight, 7:30. I expect the Lakers to win this series. I think they're the better team. I think they've been the best team in the NBA since they made those trades for D'Lo, and it's not my thought or my opinion that they've been the best team in the NBA. Statistically, record-wise, and everything else, they've been the best team in the NBA. So I expect LeBron to have a solid game tonight, and I think AD has a big bounce-back performance. You cannot let Kevon Looney out-rebound you, out-block you, and outscore you. That can't happen. It's absolutely embarrassing. And Kevon Looney was sick that last game and still outperformed AD. So I expect a big bounce back game in these next two games in LA for the Lakers. And yeah, man, these NBA playoffs have been fun. So I've been enjoying it. I mean, anybody else who's enjoying it loves seeing some competitive series, and that's all we've been getting. And I'm a fan. I've enjoyed it.
Chief Concern says, do you think that the Heat would have won round 1 if Giannis never got hurt?
Well, when Giannis was playing, they beat them even worse. So, like I said, the only game that they won was when Giannis was out. They won without Giannis.
And not to take away from the Heat in that regard, in that scenario, but I think that the problems were more about the Bucks than the Heat being such a good team.
Well, Jimmy Butler's numbers were absolutely insane.
In any other scenario, the Bucks should win that series without question. They were the number 1 seed, but they were also the prohibitive favorite to win the title.
Yeah.
So I don't even not to disrespect the Heat, but I almost feel like the Bucks would have lost to anybody they faced in that series.
Yeah.
Because there's something internally not right.
Even if Giannis wasn't 100%, he is a massive mismatch in that game, in that series. Because Bam Adebayo, 6'8".
Yeah.
Giannis, bro.
He's not good in the
Giannis should have been averaging 40, 12, and 12 in that series.
Yeah, man.
If Jimmy Butler's going there and putting 50 burgers on your ass, Giannis should have been responding to that.
You know what the Bucks look like? And this is coming from a guy that was very big on him this year.
Mm-hmm. I told you I wasn't, man.
The Bucks look like a team that had their championship window. And now with this team as it's currently constructed, it's no longer – it's closed. That window is closed. Even though they're a really good team, you're seeing them age. They're getting old. Like Chris Middleton's just not the same player anymore. Drew Holiday's still a very good perimeter defender, can shoot.
They got some changes
But yeah, Brook Lopez is clearly like he's declining as well. He's a good blocker, really good rebounder, can shoot the 3 occasionally. But he's like basically becoming what Al Horford is, just like a very rotationally kind of guy. They don't have the depth they once had. Even like I said, they have a superstar best player in the world, Giannis, and then a bunch of good guys, solid guys. They need to make some adequate changes for sure. And again, congratulations to the Heat for making that or winning that series. It was very unforeseen, but I think that had more to do with the Bucks and the Heat.
Yeah,
personally, that's just my opinion.
I agree.
All right, now let's go into boxing tonight.
Talk about your favorite boxer. Let's do it. I'm really excited about this.
That's why I'm not going to talk about it. So.
And he's protesting. He's not talking about Canelo.
John Ryder versus whoever that guy is. Who you got?
John Ryder. Who the hell is John Ryder?
Or who is he fighting? John Ryder.
Who's John Ryder?
I don't know.
I don't know either. We're talking about boxing here. This is supposed to be your lane, Eddie. Who's John Ryder?
I have
no fucking clue who John Ryder is.
That's who Canelo fights. Thank you.
Okay, well then you're helping me out. Yeah, okay.
My point.
Okay, well look, every once in a while Canelo's got to have one of these fluff pieces, man. Like Mayweather's entire career. It's perfect.
Let the man feast.
Mayweather fought Canelo. That's your favorite.
When he was 20 years old.
He fought him?
He was 20. Let Canelo at 29, 30 years old fight Mayweather. He
Beat his
beats him.
ass.
He beats him. Canelo
Beat that
in his
ass.
prime beats Mayweather.
Who you got?
I'm gonna go with Canelo, the recognizable name that is one of the greatest boxers to ever live.
You said John Ritter. That's who he's fighting.
Ritter,
Ritter,
I've never heard of this.
fuck
John
Johnny.
Ritter, the old actor.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
Canelo, man. This is who else out there right now do you think Canelo should be fighting? Like what massive contender you think he's ducking, or you think
Bivol.
The guy that's not even in his weight class, he already lost to.
Ducking.
He already lost to him.
Ducking.
How's he ducking? He fought him.
Because he said, I want that rematch.
Maybe he will get it. Well, who's to say he won't?
He's not chasing it.
I mean, he's
waiting until
he's in his
Bivol
own weight class.
He's waiting until Bivol gets old and,
Bivol's like, what, 29?
Yeah, he's waiting until he
He's
gets
younger
in
than
his
Canelo.
40s.
He's going to wait out a guy that's younger than him? That makes no sense.
That's what it does. That's what it does. He's gonna wait till he's older. When Bivol retires, that's when he'll fight him.
So in all seriousness though, who do you have winning this fight? Be real.
John Ritter.
Yeah, exactly.
I swear. Every dollar amount in your bank account, I want it on a bet right now that Canelo wins this fight.
Oh man.
I mean, we can shake on this right now. We got people watching right now. We can shake on this. We
So
got
you think John
witnesses.
Denver's gonna win?
John Denver. We got John Daly versus Canelo.
John Wayne is definitely winning.
John Stewart is fighting Canelo.
John Juan DeMarco is gonna.
Never heard of him.
Oh man, Canelo's gonna win. It's a dub.
Yeah, I mean it's already scripted.
Johnny Sins is fighting Canelo. Is that what you're telling me right now?
No, I'm not.
Canelo's gonna win. It's scripted, so.
So then you're saying he's gonna win. Then that's good. I'm glad to hear that, Eddie.
I mean it's scripted.
Yeah,
so.
you love WWE, so.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I
The
do.
script is in.
I'd rather watch WWE than Canelo fight. I'll tell you that.
I watch neither, but
All right, so UFC 288, we got Bilal
Bilal
Muhammad versus Gilbert Burns.
Gilbert Burns
Dude,
fighting again, dude.
Gilbert Burns, I think this will be his third fight
Fiend.
in like 9 months.
Fiend.
Like he's 36 years old. For him to do this is it's unprecedented almost at this point. I picked Gilbert Burns to beat Masvidal. I felt very comfortable with that one. He
just fought,
absolutely
what,
whooped
like
his
3
ass.
weeks
That was,
ago?
it was like literally
Not even a month ago. Yeah.
I want to pick Gilbert in this fight. I think Bilal is the guy though, man, that could beat him. But I am sticking with Gilbert Burns. I think Gilbert Burns is going to win this fight. Bilal is a bad man. I think that they both can trade. I think this can be an electric fight. I think that Gilbert is the stronger fighter, and I think he's going to get the job done because I think that Gilbert is just in one of those zones right now where it's almost impossible to pick against him unless it's against a Chimaev, like my guy Chimaev. Unless and to Gilbert's credit, he's the only guy to survive Chimaev. Everybody else has been knocked out, submitted, dominated. He went the distance with Chimaev. So that should tell you something about where Gilbert Burns is at right now. I love Bilal. Like I said, if he was fighting any other guy in that weight class right now outside of Chimaev, I'd probably pick Bilal. I'm picking Gilbert Burns in this fight. I think he wins by decision.
Yeah, Muhammad is the underdog. He's plus 125, so it's basically a pick 'em. But yeah, I'm not gonna bet against Burns, man. Like Gilbert Burns is just one of those guys that you just not want to see. He's just one of those guys, thick ass neck, just rock solid everywhere. I mean, you're not gonna knock the dude out. You know, I mean, he better chance of him knocking you out no matter who you are than you knocking him out. The guy is just made of steel. Bilal Muhammad is an absolute dog, too. Don't get me wrong. But
I want to see him get Covington so bad. I want to see them fight because, there's bad blood there.
Well, and I think that would help a lot if he won this fight. If he does beat Gilbert Burns.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That would be huge for him to take that next step and maybe get another shot. But I think maybe Gilbert Burns is trying to get a shot at something here, too. I mean, I know he's not a young man anymore. But, I mean, he's just one of those guys that I just think he's out here, like he's just fought like not even a month ago, right around a month ago. This guy, it's just for the love of the game. This is kind of the guy he is. And, he's out here, with the 22-5 record in the UFC, one of the best of his weight class to do it for a long time. So I'm going to go Gilbert Burns just because I think he's the proven commodity here more. And I trust him to win this fight. But I do think it's going to be a good, scrappy one. And I think it'll probably go the distance most likely, I think. Because both these guys, I think, counter each other's styles pretty well. But I will not put it out of the question that Gilbert Burns can knock this dude out or Bilal can get, inside of, Gilbert Burns and maybe get some good shots on him and phase him a little bit and, TKO possibly. Who knows? But I think this is going to be an absolute dogfight, and I can't wait to watch it.
This is such a jab to Masvidal. You know, you just fought Gilbert Burns a month ago. He's already
Yeah.
about to fight. That just tells you how much you how much
Dust him off a
damage you
little bit.
did.
Yeah.
How much
Right.
damage you did. Oh
Right.
my God.
Yeah. Yeah, might as well have been watched if I'm being honest.
That's funny. All right, and the main event of the night, Aljamain Sterling versus Henry Cejudo.
Let's go.
Who you got?
Can I first say that I don't think Henry Cejudo deserves this fight? He's one of the greatest fighters in UFC history. He is.
That's why he does.
Yeah.
My point, though, is there are guys that are more deserving of it. How about Sugar Sean?
Yeah.
He's been fighting for the last 3 years.
And
He's been fighting for the last 3 years, unlike Cejudo.
Yeah, he's
Cejudo's-
an active fighter within the last few months.
The only reason I think right now, I mean, obviously I think Cejudo still got it. Like I think he retired early. I think he was like 31 when he retired.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's like going to be way past his prime or anything like that, where he's going to come in this fight and just get decked.
Yeah, he retired early.
My point though is that I think that there are guys that have been working their way up, and Cejudo, because he has that charisma about him and talks shit, nobody likes him, all that stuff. He's getting this fight because Dana White knows that sells tickets.
Yeah.
Because Aljamain's not much of a talker. You get a Cejudo with Aljamain, all of a sudden it's like this fireworks event, you know. And according to ActionNetwork.com, they have Cejudo as the favorite. He's a minus 120.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much a pick 'em. Look, I respect everything about Cejudo's fight game, or the way he fights. I love the way Aljamain can really pretty much dominate an opponent of any style.
Mm-hmm. Very skilled.
He proved himself after the Peter Yan knee that got him disqualified, got Aljamain the belt. He proved that he's a legitimate champion multiple times over.
He was going to win that fight, I think, anyways.
Yes. This fight, guys, look, as much as I want to sit here and say that Aljamain's the more deserving fighter for this one and the other guys should get a chance at the belt over Cejudo, Cejudo does have a legitimate chance of winning this fight.
100%.
We have to understand this dude has some of the best hands we've ever seen in the UFC. This dude can knock anybody out at any given time.
Lightning fast still.
If I'm Aljamain, you got to make this fight boring for two reasons. One, what I just said. Cejudo can knock him out. Legitimately. And I know Aljamain's not the type of guy that gets knocked out.
Yep.
Neither was Usman. And Usman got knocked out by Leon Edwards.
Yep.
Like, Cejudo can make that happen. Number two, you make this fight boring, you're going to make Cejudo desperate. Why? Because Cejudo's doing this for obviously a big payday for the belt, and he wants to put on a show. That's always been his style. If Aljamain slows the fight down, puts him up against the fence in the clinch, takes him to the ground a couple of times, makes Cejudo actually have to fight a fight and not just throw hands and make a spectacle, it's gonna bode well for Aljamain in so many different ways. If I'm a betting man, and I'm really not, that's more Trevor's lane, I'm going to pick that Aljamain wins this fight because I think he understands that.
Yeah, plus money, fuck yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, Aljamain understands that if he tries to toe-to-toe with Cejudo, he's going to get dropped.
Yeah.
Or he's going to lose
I
significantly.
would pick Aljamain at plus money going the distance.
I pick it going the distance. I think it's going to be a boring fight. I don't think we're going to be sitting here going, what a fucking fight. I think it's going to be one of those, like, I mean, Aljamain just did his job. He survived the match. He kept his belt. I think it's going to be one of those where it's going to frustrate Cejudo. Cejudo's going to show some rust because he has been out for 3 years. That's a big thing in fighting, especially. While Aljamain's been fighting all along, I think that's going to pay dividends. I think he's a better, more gifted overall athlete. I think that's what's going to happen. I think Aljamain wins by decision. I think the final two fights won by decisions.
Yes, Sterling is the superior athlete in this fight. No, not even a question. The guy's maybe one of the most peak athletes in the sport. His motor and his engine, his stamina is insane. And obviously his physique and the way he keeps himself in shape is just wild. The guy's in incredible shape. Cejudo 100% can absolutely win this fight. The guy's got legendary hands, stone hands. Undersized guy, so the reach is going to be a problem, I think, for him with the speed and the counter activity of Sterling. I think Sterling is going to control the first 2 to 3 rounds, and keep the fight boring. And I think it's going to, like you said, frustrate Cejudo to where he's going to want to try to land more strikes, because I think he's going to lose the first couple rounds, and that's going to force him to try to really be the aggressor. Because I think they're going to try to feel each other out a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think that works into Sterling's favor in the first couple rounds, feeling each other out and controlling the fight, maybe getting some ground control time, maybe a takedown or two. That would be huge for Sterling. I know he's going to try to shoot for those. But Cejudo is one of those guys, man. Do not let him get inside. If he gets inside, he'll hit you with the uppercut or bring one over the top. Or, that guy has absolute stone hands. Did it for decades throughout his career. You know what I mean? So I think that this is an interesting fight. I think these two guys, our fighting styles are completely different. and it's really going to be about who outmatches who outclasses who forces their skill set onto who. But I do think Aljamain Sterling just outlasts him, and I think he wins by decision. So if I'm betting on this fight, I do take the plus 100, and say go the distance as well. I think he wins by decision. Retains the belt. But yeah, I think this. If we're expecting fireworks in this fight with all the shit talk that's been going on, I don't think it's going to be that. I could definitely be wrong because Cejudo's a guy that puts on a show. Yeah, he absolutely can. But I'm not counting on that. But I do think at the end of this fight, I think it goes all 5 rounds, and I think Sterling wins by decision, just by takedowns, control time, and maybe overall strikes, because I think he will possibly has a good chance of landing more strikes with his length and his ability and his quickness and his speed to avoid getting hit by Cejudo. So I think he avoids that major damage and wins this fight by decision.
That's it.
Good stuff, man. Good Eddie Hour. We appreciate it every single week because we get to go across the landscape, and this week in particular was a very important one because, goddamn, did we have a lot. Real quick, Eddie, WWE, what do you think tonight, man? What are the matchups? Do you know?
I do know the matchups. It's going to be a good card. It's in Puerto Rico, San Juan, Puerto Rico. So, if you like entertainment, check it out. Bad Bunny's wrestling today.
Nice.
So
Saw that.
that's
Yeah.
going to be a really good match. I know a lot of people give celebrities like that. I don't like them feeling
Scoff at them, yeah.
Yeah,
Logan
'cause
Paul.
but
They're both good in the ring,
I was
though.
gonna say
Like,
both Logan Paul and Bad Bunny are probably one of the best
Well, Logan Paul's
celebrity
and Pat
wrestlers.
McAfee's good,
Incredible
too.
athlete.
Like, he's solid.
Pat McAfee's a
He's a
great
showman,
yeah.
let alone
Pat
athleticism.
McAfee's a great athlete when it comes into the in-ring action. Same as Bad Bunny. They give really good matches. Though it's all scripted. Yes, it's WWE, but overall, it's great entertainment. It's great entertainment. So,
It's still real to me, damn it.
yeah, no,
You didn't just say that.
it's great entertainment. So this celebrity match is gonna be one to watch out for. It's gonna be really good. So yeah.
I like it.
Hell yeah.
All right, guys, we have one more order of business to get to. What is it called?
Hold this L.
Each and every episode, we finish off each and every episode with a series of L's in the world of sports. Whether those L's are friendly or not so friendly L's in the world of sports, I promise you, who is ever holding those L's deserve those L's in the world of sports. Eddie Ortiz, Mr. Yo. Who's holding L for you this week, and why is it F1?
Because F1 is what's hot right now.
Is it 2 weeks in a row
Yeah.
now? Holy shit. Okay.
Last week I gave it to the sprint race format. It was just stupid. It was dumb. But then the race happened on Sunday, obviously after the show. It was pretty disappointing to see Christian Horner, team principal for Red Bull, come out on the radio, on Max's radio, Max Verstappen's radio, and say, yeah, Checo got lucky with the safety car, and that's why he won the race pretty much. That was such bogus bullshit. Like, Checo earned that victory throughout the entire race. He was pushing Max so hard that Max came out and said, "Oh, I'm having difficulty with the balance of the car, yada yada yada." Every time Max says that's because Checo's right behind him. So this season has been really, really good in seeing Checo come out and be aggressive, be that driver that we all thought he could be at Red Bull, and he's finally showing it, and he's bringing up the fight to Max, and I think Max is feeling the pressure, and I think he doesn't like it, and I think Christian Horner, being such a Max Verstappen kind of guy, he's also not liking seeing somebody else put the pressure on Max Verstappen. Checo was gonna pass Max regardless in that race, safety car or no safety car. I think the safety car literally had nothing to do with Checo winning that race.
Right.
There were still over 30 laps when the safety car happened, so Max could have very well easily won that race if he wanted to, I guess. But for Christian Horner to say that Checo got lucky with that safety car, that's a lie. It was not luck. Checo won that race with his skills, and Baku, which was the race that they were at, is Baku. That's his track. He's the only driver to win twice in Baku. No other driver has won twice in that track. That's how hard it is to win there. And they call him the king of the streets for a reason. He's really good when it comes to street tracks. He won Monaco last year. He won Singapore last year. And then he won Baku the year before that. So, I mean, his record shows that he's pretty good on street tracks. So, yeah, it's going to Christian Horner for the disrespect, for not applauding, for not celebrating Checo's hard-fought victory, for downplaying it in such a way that it made it seem like arrogant, like he was upset about. I don't know. It was just bad for Red Bull. I don't know what he thinks about. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm upset at that. A lot of F1 fans are upset at Christian Horner as well. It was just it leaves a poor taste in your mouth. So, for that reason, Christian Horner, you're gonna have to do me a favor and hold this L.
Trevor Twiddle, who's holding the L for you this week, my man?
Listen, I'm not a person that likes to kick people when they're down. But when you're a person who's kicked women when they're down, literally, I got a problem with you. No, that's not. It's not Cream. Good choice. Good. That's good. Good memory. So, ex-NFL defensive end Greg Hardy, former UFC jobber, is in the news again. Hardy, who spent 6 years as a defensive end playing for the Carolina Panthers and Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, everyone remembers him for his arrest for domestic abuse and strangling and throwing his ex-girlfriend on a pile of guns and threatening to kill her. Solid dude. He obviously spent a couple years trying to make his MMA career a thing. Dana White, for some reason, gave him a chance. Did nothing but get his ass knocked out most of the time, and then became a bare knuckle fighter. Got his ass knocked out in the first round on that after losing his job in the UFC. Listen, Karma, she a bitch. The reason he's back in the news again, he was on social media, and apparently he has a new job now. Someone hired him at a job, and he's working now at Walmart, selling Spectrum subscriptions for Spectrum inside. You know those people that standing in the hallways at Walmart's, usually around the electronics section, trying to sell you, DirecTV or things like Sam's Club, AT&T, things like that. Yeah, that's him now. He's doing that. Greg Hardy, ex-NFL player, ex-UFC jobber, bare knuckle knockout artist, but on the wrong end of it. So. Listen, like I started off with, I don't want to kick people when they're down, especially I don't like to see people lose. But when they're a bad person, they're a bad person. This guy's been nothing but a bad person, as far as we know. As far as the public eye, I don't know him on a personal level, obviously, nor do I care to. Here he is. Here he is around rock bottom, and karma's been a bitch to him, and it is what it is. Whenever you do the things that this guy's done and proven to have done and pled guilty to doing, and those things accumulate. You accumulate karmic debt, as you will, if you will. It's bad out there for him at this time. Guy that had a promising career in the NFL, was a legitimately good NFL player, but decided to shit on it and not take. I appreciate people that make the best of their life, and I also appreciate the reality of people that don't. And we can learn from these people's flaws and these people's mistakes. So this is definitely one of those situations where you can learn from. And any other athlete or someone trying to make it in life can definitely learn from this to control yourself and your life. So now he's working at Walmart. So for that, Mr. Greg Hardy, do me a solid favor and
hold this L.
I'm going to start off with a W. So, first of all, you guys know that we like to, lead this show each and every week, and we present, other factors, other communities, and things of that nature within our construct when it comes to Chiefs content and things like that. But I always try at the same time to give praise to the people that do this stuff in the background for us, and Clay Windler is that guy. He just dropped, Red Tribe Cinema just dropped Rise of Mahomes 4, The Redemption. If you've not watched it yet, it's okay because it just dropped today. I haven't even watched it yet. But this is going to be, I think he said the runtime's 90 minutes long. So you're getting a full feature-length video of everything that's like, because the Rise of Home videos kind of show like the past, and then they go to the present, and then like they kind of touch on what the future is going to be. Clay has been talking to me through this entire time, and the amount of people like Clay in the Chiefs community do not get enough respect and reverence from fans. People love him.
Yeah,
they get hundreds of thousands of views.
Creatives, man.
But he doesn't get enough, and I don't know why this guy isn't blowing up on YouTube. I mean, he's got, I think, like 20-something thousand subscribers. He needs to be in the hundreds of thousands because he's been doing this for the longest time. He's one of the OGs, and quite frankly, he's just badass at what he does. I can't wait to watch it after the show today. I'm going to have to really set aside some time because I know it's going to be very detailed. But there's one thing that Clay does, man. He provides quality. He gives you guys an honest product. Something that we all love and admire, but we sometimes take for granted. Mm-hmm. And we're so freaking lucky to have him, not only in as a Chiefs fan, where he happens to be in our fan base, but he gets to be a part of this show. And so I like to mention him every single show, and I'm definitely so I'm giving our guy Clay a dub today because he deserves that, man. He's been busting his ass for
when
this
he does
video.
it in a way where he attaches pop culture alongside
Exactly.
Chiefs stuff, and it's just a very unique approach.
Yes, and I have no doubt in my mind it's going to freaking crush.
Yeah.
So go to Red Tribe Cinema on YouTube, subscribe to his channel, go check out the new Rise of Mahomes 4, The Redemption. I couldn't be happier for my guy Clay. I'm proud of him, and I have no doubt it's going to be awesome. So I can't wait to watch that. My L, however, is going to go to a certain group of people that decided to change the rules a little bit. So we know that Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski, when they went to the Buccaneers, they won the title that first year together. Everything seemed great. No one could talk shit because they went out there and they did what they were setting out to do. I actually have 2 L's, and I want to segment it out. And both, so the first one I'm going to give is this. This contradictory, hypocritical mentality that now the Chiefs get to inherit. Because when Tom Brady and Gronk won their title with the Buccaneers, it was free reign to do whatever they wanted to do. They celebrated how they wanted to. And you know how they celebrated? They got drunk as fuck.
Yeah.
And they took the real Lombardi and shucked it all the way across the ocean side, the Bay Area they were out there hanging out in. And Tom was fucked up, shucking it from boat to boat. We even saw a video from the past when Rob Gronkowski, I believe back in the Patriots days, tees off. Ed, you sent me the video where he bunts a baseball with the fucking Lombardi. There's a dent still in that Lombardi because that everyone thinks that's hilarious. I think it's hilarious. I think what Tom Brady did was hilarious. But you didn't hear a single person say, man, that's freaking disrespectful. How dare they do that? But then Travis Kelce goes on the stage earlier last week, chugs a beer off of the Lombardi, spikes it, and you can clearly tell it was a fake Lombardi. Like the way it bounces, the way he's holding it. Like that thing's heavy. It's like flimsy, and he chucks it roll. No big deal. And people still, it didn't even matter. Like, people didn't even want to research if it was actual Lombardi or not. And if you had 2 brain cells to rub against themselves, you would know that Travis Kelce, even in a drunk state of mind, wouldn't spike the damn Lombardi. And even if he did, how dare you get mad about that, but not get mad about Tom Brady chucking that bitch across the damn ocean, that if it would have fell in the water, it would have sunk to the damn bottom, or Rob Gronkowski reliving his baseball dreams as being the next Ken Griffey with the damn Lombardi. It doesn't make any sense. Y'all got to do me a solid and
hold this L.
My second L, making it quick. The team that Tom Brady had left previously, I don't know if I can take what Bill Belichick is doing seriously anymore. This is the difference, and this is why I appreciate what Colin Cowherd says about if the league would have transitioned from defense to offense like 10 years earlier, we would reverence Andy Reid like we reverence Bill Belichick because he'd have just as many rings, but the league was still defensive minded, which is why Belichick capitalized on it because he's a defensive genius. But if you look at the draft, that the drafts, we talk about how Brett Veach has been killing over these last 3 or 4 drafts. Bill Belichick has been equally awful. Now, he's never been really good at drafting and developing good offensive talent on a normal basis. In fact, I think Rob Gronkowski is still the last offensive all-pro that Bill Belichick has drafted. That was like 12 years ago, guys.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's a long time ago. So he's always had that strong, getting wide receivers, getting guys like that, skill position guys. You would think that with Mac Jones as your quarterback, which will probably be Bailey Zappi anyway, You would think with that quarterback situation, with your division, as we all just talked about 30 minutes ago about the Jets bolstering up by getting Aaron Rodgers, Tua is going to be healthy again. The Bills will still be respectable, and Josh Allen's one of the 3-4 best quarterbacks in the league. You would think a head coach that's running the team, that's in his 70s now, would go out there and try to get as many skill position players in the draft as possible, especially when they had like 12 picks. Bill Belichick didn't take a damn wide receiver until the 6th round of this draft. You got some edge guys, got some defensive guys, and I get that because he's more of a defensive-minded head coach. We're in 2023, my guy. This is not 2000, 2001 anymore.
And your offense is trash.
And your offense is trash, and your quarterback is mediocre at best. Wouldn't you want to set him up for success as much as possible on the offensive side? Because I got to talk about the Chiefs going after defense. You know why? Because you already have an elite quarterback, the best in the league at what he does. You can afford to go defense, and you need to go defense because you already have the infrastructure in place on the offensive side with an offensive-minded head coach. He drafts a punter, and he drafts a kicker within the 4th and 6th rounds. The same round, you take a kicker before you take a wide receiver when you don't have any wide receivers right now outside of Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, what are you thinking, my guy? But you know what? I love it. I enjoy it because this only makes Andy Reid look better. I think Andy Reid's the best coach in the league. I think he's been better than Bill Belichick for a significant amount of time. People just don't want to look at it that way because the fact that Bill Belichick always had Tom Brady, whereas Andy Reid was making the most out of Alex Smith and Don McNabb and Kevin Kolb and guys like that. If he had Tom Brady all those years, you don't think he wins all 5-6 championships? Guarantee he does. In the meantime, Belichick gets to win something else. Do me a solid, Mr. Bill, and
hold this L.
And before we're gone, Chief Concern brought up a good point, and I forgot to ask. NBA MVP, Joel Embiid.
Without question.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Like Jokic was definitely at the top of the list for about 3/4 of the season. But then the Nuggets started to slide. He was dealing with injuries, things of that nature. Embiid all season, best scorer in the league this year, averaging like 34, 35 a game, 12 rebounds, 2.5, 3 blocks. Can pass the ball really well. Like, he was healthy for the majority of the season. The Sixers had a very successful year. He was the MVP. He deserved it. And I'll be honest with you guys, I was cooking some food last night, and I was watching the beginning of the ceremony of when he was accepting his MVP, and when his son ran on the court, bro, I lost it. I ain't gonna lie. I was like, God damn it, because Joel's like crying. And I love the fact that, and we should have used this as a W, and I appreciate Marcus Dash for saying that. The fact that Joel Embiid's come from what he's come from, Cameroon.
KU, baby.
Yeah, he went to KU but didn't get to play much at all his rookie or his freshman year. Yep. Got drafted to a horrific Sixers franchise. Stuck by them, stayed loyal. Ben Simmons was flaky, left. Joel stuck his feet in the ground. Sometimes that can be deemed as foolish. I get it. But he stuck it out. He became an MVP. He deserved every bit of it. And seeing him, his emotions come out yesterday with his son in his arms and the crowd embracing him.
Yeah, it felt real at that moment.
Yeah, he's been the greatest player the Sixers have had since Allen Iverson, without question.
Yeah.
I loved it for him. I loved it for Sixers fans as well because I don't know if they're going to win this series. I don't know if they're going to win anything else. All I do know is they have one of the most profound centers in the history of the NBA, and I couldn't be happier for our guy Joel Embiid.
One of the most talented players I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, pound for pound, a guy that started late, didn't even play basketball until later in high school. You know, he didn't even pick up the skill set and the mechanics and stuff until late. So, I mean, imagine he spent his whole life doing this. I mean, the guy is incredible. He's been hampered by injuries. I mean, this is an incredible story for him to reach this summit of becoming a league MVP. Of not a lot of that's rare company, man. So, especially for guys, you know, of his size and his skill set, you know, his rarity is peaked at this point, I feel. You know, you become a league MVP. I would love to see them make this a series with the Celtics. I think they're outmatched at this point. James Harden's got to step it up, but yeah, I mean, that could become a series, man. I would love to see them win this series, and that would be even more great for this season for him to add to that, keep it going. But yeah, all the credit to Joel. Joel, he was my MVP this year, even though I felt Jokic or Giannis both deserved it as well. But I mean, this is. I mean, the trio of those guys, I mean, how do you pick? That's very tough. Right. But I think Joel did his time. I think Joel did enough this year to be that guy. Literally, his team depends on him that much. And what he brings to every game, defensively, offensively, skill set-wise. I mean, you got a guy his size that can Euro step and fade and dunk and block everybody. It's just defend the perimeter. You know what I mean? Everything he does is incredible. I think he's more gifted offensively than Jokic and even obviously Giannis. I think he's got more skill set overall between those guys.
The Jokic one's debatable, though. I will say that. I think
Jokic is the better passer for sure.
Yeah.
But Jokic can't score like Embiid can.
Yeah, but he can shoot better. He's a better shooter. I think he's a better shooter. Joel's a good shooter for his size, but I think Jokic is the better overall
I'm saying
shooter.
as far overall skill set, like repertoire.
Yeah. Overall players, without
Euro
question.
steps, spin moves, like the way he creates shots is far
Jokic
more.
is more fundamental. He's more of a throwback.
He's actually less fundamental. Jokic is very uncoordinated.
Just like sky hooks and he bank shots and stuff like that.
He's fundamental as far as the shots taken, but I mean, as far as his skill set's very uncoordinated, very off.
Yeah.
Which makes him tough to defend because you don't know how he's going to create a shot out of nowhere. He might be, I think their 3-point shooting is pretty similar. I think they're pretty similar as far as 3-point shooting.
I would take Jokic as a shooter over Joel.
You might be right because of his ability. His ability to facilitate is like elite.
He's like a 7-foot point guard.
That's true. That's true. That's very true. That could be debatable.
But defensively,
that's what I'm saying. So he's better than Giannis offensively, and he's better defensively than Jokic. So he's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you meet in the
for
middle.
It's a give and take.
I'm so happy for him, man. I'm so happy he got that this year. He deserves it. Seeing him celebrate with James Harden and those guys, and when you saw the live feed of him getting it, and he saw it getting announced on the TV. It was so cool to see that with his, all his teammates and everything. And the guy's come a long way, and I'm glad he's had this. Hopefully, he can get another one at some point in his career as well. Just go win this series, man. Go beat the Celtics. I would love to see that. But yeah, congrats to my guy Joel, man.
Who was the last KU guy to win
MVP?
MVP?
Probably Wilt Chamberlain.
Wilt Chamberlain, probably.
Damn. Because Paul Pierce never
Paul
won
Pierce
one.
was like the closest he can ever come. Yeah,
that would be the only guy I could think of that would even come close.
Paul Pierce was maybe like he came like third MVP racing, I think, one year.
And obviously Andrew Wiggins never got close. He hasn't gotten close.
Yeah.
Like KU's pumped out some really good basketball players, but yeah, no MVPs. I think Wilt's got to be the last one.
It's got to be.
You have to, unless somebody's probably screaming one. I can't think of one.
No, we pumped out a lot of good role players though.
Yeah.
But
Cole Aldridge? I'm just kidding.
Mario Chalmers?
Nick Collison?
Nick Collison. All right, well, this has been a fun show, man. I think we touched all bases today. That's my goal in mind every time we get into one of these shows.
Touch it.
I want to touch it all. And I want to make sure that we, include every fan of every type, every person that wants to talk about whatever sport it is. This is a perfect weekend to do that because of the fact there's a lot going on, man. So we appreciate you guys sticking with us. I know there's a lot of people out there that support us big time, and I say that I don't say this lightly. We don't take that lightly. We very much appreciate you guys.
We love you.
And we definitely appreciate our guy DMAC Wakefield once again from the Kingdom Cast for jumping in today. He did an incredible job, gave us great articulate thoughts. Definitely made me feel even better about my D-Hop Hill. I'm sticking with it. Definitely think that it's a strong possibility.
You're not D-hopping off that train?
Not D-hopping off of it now that my guy DMAC backed me up on it. So, no, and again, follow Clay when the Red Tribe Cinema. I already know that video. I don't have to see it yet to know it's incredible. Can't wait. Go watch the new Rise of Mahomes 4, the Redemption, man. It's going to be awesome. But in the meantime, for Trevor Twidwell, for Eddie Ortiz, for the great Clay Wendler that I've already previously announced, that puts all this together on the back end, I am Lance Twidwell of the Spoken Podcast. Episode 215 is done. Finished and finito. And until we're back here in 1 week's time for episode 216 to talk about whatever the hell we're going to talk about, because it's going to be a blast regardless, we out of this bitch.
Later.